Welcome back to Squeeze the Juice. Here we are weeks later. It's okay. We knew we were going to be a bit. So
the dust has settled.
The dust has settled, right? You got a full breath in and breath out. You got to. So the 2024 NFL Draft has concluded. We've had about a month's time to kind of let it soak in, kind of see how things played out, look at our mock draft versus, the actual draft and what situations went down, Obviously, there were a lot of trades that went on, so, we didn't do any trades in our mock draft, so, there's a lot of give and take in some of these situations. But, Evan, we're back, and we're back with Tyler again. Welcome back. FueledByMotown in the building. So you guys, yes, I didn't go. You guys were down there. What were the scenes like?
Unreal. I feel like the city did such a great job of putting on. I went all 3 days. I got into the actual draft stage area on Sunday, but there was just so many fans couldn't get in on the first 2 nights, which was crazy.
Saturday?
Yeah, Saturday.
Is that when you got locked out?
Yeah, no, Saturday's where I got in. Thursday and Friday night, I couldn't get in. Saturday just felt like a Sunday, honestly, when you're down there for that many hours on end. But no, it was an awesome experience. Truly once in a lifetime. Actually got into the stage at one point, got some really cool photos. It was just awesome. It was so cool, so well done. And I mean, the city just did such a great job. It was so clean. There was vendors everywhere. The city had such a buzz and aura to it. So it was awesome. I loved it. Not sure when it'll come back, but with a crowd like that, 775,000 plus, it'll be back for sure.
Yeah. Shout out to Justin's sister and my wife, Chelsea, for going down with me, because we went on the first day. We went all out on the first day, and the second day we went as well. The first day we stood in line for 8 hours just to get in, and then we stood for another 8 or so hours for the draft to start, just so we could be in the front. And we got, really good pictures. We were there day one. We were the first row outside of the theater, where we could see, the entire draft go down. It was a lot of standing. Our legs were killing us by the end of the day. We were starving, but it was really cool watching Terry and Arnold get picked, watching him come pump up the crowd. It was really cool. So like Evan said, Detroit did a really good job. They shut down a whole section of the entire downtown city for people to walk in and just kind of enjoy hanging out down there. If you really weren't interested in actually going down to the theater and actually watching the draft, you could just hang out down there and it was kind of like a party downtown. So yeah, like Evan said, it was really fun. It was an experience I'll never forget. I don't know if I would do it again. It was a bucket list thing for me to attend an NFL draft. So it was really cool that it was in our own backyard. And it was a lot of fun, and shout out to my wife for going, because there's not a whole lot of wives that would put up with that. No. And but it was an experience I'll never forget, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, it'd be hard to, I respect people who travel and go to, all of them, right? But that's a lot.
Yeah, we talked to a couple guys that make it like a yearly trip. There was a couple guys in front of us that said they do like a father-son trip every year, and they travel every single year to where the draft is. So
that's pretty
shout out to them. They were Bengals fans, even though they weren't from Ohio. But
I bet they're from Louisiana.
The nice thing about the draft is it's free entry.
Right.
So you're basically, if you're out of state, you either are driving or flying, and then you're just paying for a hotel. So you really it's such an easily accessible experience for the NFL fan. And when a city like Detroit does as good of a job as it did, it just makes the experience so much better. I can't say the same is going to happen in Green Bay next year. Green Bay is just not the kind of city that Detroit is. They are not going to be able to do it like we did it. So, for us to be able to kind of brag about it is pretty awesome. I mean, the most attended NFL draft of all time. You got to put some respect on our name.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it was crazy.
And I wish you would have came.
The views from home were epic.
You would have had a great time.
I thought about it, but then it was just a lot.
It was
to get
Especially
work
Saturday.
off.
Saturday was a pretty chill.
I was gonna say it was
Saturday
a
was a
big
chill day.
crowd. It made it more enjoyable when the picks were being made, just the environment of like all the noise and everyone being so excited. But there is a lot of drawbacks. So obviously with the big crowd, you're standing, you're jam packed, you're like shoulder to shoulder with everybody. Parking, trying to find, somewhere to go to the bathroom, waiting in line forever, like all that. Like it is a hassle. So I don't blame anyone for just watching it at home and enjoying the experience at home.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
No, nothing wrong. Nothing wrong.
I that's fair. No, I think it'll be back for sure, and maybe we'll hit it next time around if it comes back around. But
For sure.
it's got to go to Green Bay, and then now Pittsburgh is the one after
Pittsburgh
that.
will do a great job. Excited to see what they do in the draft.
I know. I feel like I don't know what to expect of Green Bay. I don't think it's going to be that great, but I think it's the Green Bay's benefit of it is just like the history of like the Packers, just like one of the original teams in Lombardy. That's kind of like
I think they're doing it right outside of Lambeau.
Yeah, they are.
There's just nowhere to stay in Green Bay.
No, there isn't. Everyone's going to be probably coming up from Milwaukee or who knows where they'll be. Sheboygan.
Anywhere close to
maybe people will be taking the
that has
boat
hotels.
across early in the morning from Michigan.
No, that would be that'd be
you
terrible.
imagine
That'd
that?
be terrible. Had to get up so early.
And I don't know if you get a boat back.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't get a boat back.
All right. Well, the enjoyment of the draft has surpassed. We did our mock draft. No trades. And what are your general thought? What were your general thoughts going into it? Did you think our mock draft was going to be decent going into it, even without trades, or like, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I thought we would do better than just getting the first 4 picks right.
Mm-hmm.
Because normally there's at least a couple of like picks in the teens or even 20s that you feel like are good fits.
Mm-hmm.
Like you feel like a team is really linked to a certain player, and you'd feel like you'd maybe hit on a couple of those. There were some trades. So when I put this graphic together, I didn't count the traded picks because I don't really think that that's fair. So of the 24 picks of teams that actually stayed in their position, we only got 4 of them correct.
1 for 6.
But
should have got 7. That's on me.
But 15 of the picks were either exactly correct or plus or minus 3 spots of where they were taken. So we at least got the range of where the players were being taken. That's good if half of the first round you got within plus or minus a few picks.
That means
and then I did give us half a point. I would say I give us half a point for we mocked JJ McCarthy to Minnesota at 11, and they just moved up 1 spot and got him at 10. So if you count that, we got that one right. And then also half a point if you want to count, we mocked Cooper DeJean to Philly at 22, and Philly got him in the 2nd round.
Yeah.
So he did go to the right team, just not the right round.
And they did get the battle between the corners, right?
So overall, I think we did pretty good, even though we didn't nail exactly right very many picks. I still think we did pretty good.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give myself a specific shout out to my Terry and Arnold take, because what did I say, guys? I said if there was a corner that the Lions would like in round 1, it wasn't going to be Quinyon Mitchell, even though we all liked Quinyon Mitchell. I think that was all our CB1 maybe. I know it was mine. But I also really liked Terrion, and I said I felt like he was a better fit. And what do you know? The Detroit Lions trade up, got Terry and Arnold, just as I predicted.
After he fell, arguably.
And he, that where we got him was an absolute steal, and we'll go into more detail about that. But I just want to give myself a shout out because that was a great call by me.
I liked Arnold a ton as well, and we are going to get into Lions here. So, but just when you look at the mock drafts, the Kool-Aid pick at 29, like it. I'm forgetting where Kool-Aid fell to, but I know
he fell the second round to the Saints.
To the Saints, yep.
So,
and I haven't heard anything about him since the draft.
Yeah, so he was picked 41. So, I mean, it was that's a pretty substantial difference from pick 29 to 41. I mean, when you look at a first round talent and a guy that you're actually going to invest in long term, to me, Terrion was that guy for the Lions in the secondary, and I never saw Kool-Aid going to us.
Mhm.
And I was ripping Justin a little bit for it, but not because I think he was wrong.
It just felt like that was like you were just forcing position there. It didn't really feel like Kool-Aid was just like we talked about. We don't have to go into it again, but just like we talked about, we didn't feel like Kool-Aid and the Lions look for a specific kind of player and like character. And even though Kool-Aid's a great player, and I'm sure he'll be really good in New Orleans opposite Marshawn Lattimore, it just didn't feel like Kool-Aid was the Detroit Lions pick. It just didn't feel like there was a fit there. And just like I said, I felt like Terrion was the exact prototype that they wanted. If that was the corner, if it was going to be corner, then it was going to be Terrion. Or they were going to sit back and they were just going to take best player available to them
Or
with like who's going to be that guy that fit the Lions culture, right? There were some rumblings, I guess, that Detroit really liked Jordan Morgan, the tackle from Arizona. I heard that after the draft, that apparently the Lions were interested in him. It doesn't necessarily mean that he would have been the pick at 29, but there were some rumblings that Detroit was pretty high on him.
Which is crazy because the clowning that happened to Green Bay after they took.
and I did say I thought the Lions would take Johnny Newton, and it did turn out after the fact. We kind of heard that he was dealing with a foot injury, and he ended up getting surgery like a couple days after the draft. After Washington took him in the second round, he had surgery on it already, so he's already dealing with a foot injury where they just had surgery on. So maybe that was why he fell a few slots into the second round.
And obviously we had no idea.
Yeah, if we had known that, maybe I would have said Detroit would have passed on him.
Yeah.
But
we passed on him.
Right.
I mean, there were like injury concerns about him at Illinois, but they weren't like substantial enough for us to be like that concerned about. But when you hear that he has to get another procedure done on his foot, okay, now that obviously raises the bar. And he still went to the second. He still won the second round.
Right.
And I mean, we had Latu going still higher with all his injury concerns.
Yep. Yeah.
And he went even higher than we projected.
Right. And I thought we took him a little earlier than most people were in the mock draft world. We're selecting him. But yeah, I mean, we did get the top 3 quarterbacks. We got Marvin Harrison. I mean,
it was Justin who messed us up here at 5.
Yeah.
Look, you know what?
We were talking about.
Hey, there's only one of us here that got more than one pick right, and it was me.
This guy.
So, I mean, 2 is not really something to brag about, but
well, so compared to the draft, so we knew Caleb was going to be automatic at 1, right? Match. Jaden Daniels. It was between him and Drake May. We knew we felt like he was more the Commander's vibes and everything that was going on, especially with Cliff Kingsbury.
Every report that came out seemed like they were going.
Yeah, they were going him. And then we knew it was pretty much going to be a lock for Drake May if he's there to New England. And then we knew Marv, unless Arizona traded out, he was walking there. And then we got to the Chargers, right? We thought, there's the big discussion, right? We brought it up, and we almost did. Harbaugh loves his line, and we all talked about.
And we were talking about it, and it was crazy because we literally had a pretty solid discussion. I think Harbaugh will go Alt.
Yes.
Hey, Rashawn Slater on one end and Joe Alt on the other. That is the best tackle tandem in the NFL, and it's really not even close. Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert are extremely excited about that. I mean, if the Chargers can kind of clean up their books a little bit, and they can and Harbaugh can kind of get the talent back on track, because Staley just blew up that team, and for some reason the talent level was up here and the production was way down here. If Harbaugh can get that team to even play up to their talent level and maybe even exceed it a little bit, the Chargers could be a sneaky team in the AFC. Like I said, Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, those are your bookend tackles. Lock them down for the next 10 years. Justin Herbert, that's a great pick. I think that was the best. Honestly, that was probably my favorite pick in the first round, just because of how I think that's becoming one of the best offensive lines in football.
I like the pick too, but I don't know. I'm conflicted on the Chargers. I'm not sure if they're a playoff team this year, just because I think there's a lot of reshuffling of the deck, right? A new coach, a new scheme, and it's going to be a play style that Herbert is not used to at all, right? Harbaugh is coming in, and by getting that Joe Alt pick, pairing that with Rashawn Slater, it feels like they're going to be more of a rushing attack, right? They're going to be able to dominate in the trenches, dominate at the line of scrimmage. I think it's going to take them a year, maybe over the course of the offseason next year, they get a more dynamic running back to kind of fit their scheme a little better, because right now it's Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, and Kamani Vidal. I mean, none of those scream like,
There's no Saquon, there's no Henry.
There's no workhorse. Yeah. And not that you need a workhorse in the modern NFL, but what Harbaugh wants to do, I think would benefit them a ton. And then just the defense is a little bit old. They're going to need to get some more talent in there. So I still think they're a year away, but I love the foundation. And I do think long term, Herbert might not have the monster stat seasons, but I think they're going to win more. And I think that's the most important thing with the Chargers.
They got some good young pieces, that's for sure. I mean, they got Derwin James, they got Asante Samuel Jr., they got Justin Herbert, obviously. They got Alt, they got Slater. They now have Lad McConkey, and they have Quentin Johnston.
So we'll see how, you can't count them out yet.
I'm counting them out. I think it's over for Quentin Johnston.
Josh
Palmer and Lad McConkey.
Is he on a Chase Claypool trajectory?
I think so.
I say
separate.
Let's give him 1 year without atrocious coaching, and then we can say without a shadow of a doubt, he's a bust. I'd say let's give him 1 year with actually adequate coaching.
You can give me a year. So I'm not going to be.
Okay, so let's move into the most controversial pick in all of the NFL draft. Michael Penix went number 8 to the Atlanta Falcons.
And I think the funny thing about Penix is that pick literally the pandemonium it caused just completely sheltered Denver from any flack by taking Bo Nix. Who I said would go round 1. I said, someone's going to take Bo Nix. I'm not sure when, but someone's going to take him. And he went 12. He went 12 picks higher than when I
That is crazy. I still thought him to Dallas made no sense, but I didn't really think he was a first-round pick to begin with. So I'll give you half points for saying he's going to be taken in the first round. I still think the NFL community as a whole is kind of slightly laughing at the Denver Broncos for taking him. From everything I've heard, like with my NFL draft podcasts and stuff, is it kind of sounds like the Penix and Bo Nix picks were kind of picks that really sent shockwaves through the NFL, even on night 1 of the draft, that NFL GMs really didn't see that coming, and it really pushed some players down the board, and it really played in the favor of some teams, like for example Minnesota, who jumped up and got Dallas Turner at pick 17. It played into favor the Detroit Lions, who got Tyrion Arnold probably 5 to 7 picks later to what people thought the absolute floor for Tyrion Arnold's draft position was. Quinyon Mitchell fell. There was a handful of guys that were absolute values because some of these quarterbacks and offensive players were taken probably a hair earlier than they should have been, or in Penix and Nick's case, maybe a round earlier. But yeah, so going back to Atlanta, what do you guys think about it? I mean, they took Kirk Cousins. Do you like the pick? Do you understand the rationale? So this is what I'll just put this in front, and then I'll let you guys give your opinion. What doesn't make a lot of sense is the Atlanta Falcons like to say that they're trying to emulate in a way like what the Packers did with Jordan Love, but it doesn't really make sense because Aaron Rodgers had a year left on his deal, 2 years left on his deal, and Jordan Love was one of the youngest prospects in that draft. I think going into the draft, he was 20 years old. I think Aaron Rodgers had 2 years left on his deal. So you could make sense of the fact that, okay, you sit Jordan Love for 2 years because he's a super raw quarterback. He has plenty of time to figure it, or to get, to develop and become a competent quarterback. And then by then, he's still young at 22, and he can take the reins. Michael Penix is an old prospect. He's 23, I believe, and I believe by the start of the season he'll be almost 24. And Kirk Cousins just signed a deal where I think it's a 3-year deal with a team option for a 4th. So it's at least 3 years until Michael Penix even has a pathway to become a starter, and by then he's 27 on the fringe of being 28. It's it just doesn't make sense. So from what I've been seeing what I've been hearing in podcasts and stuff is it doesn't make sense. The Green Bay Packer comparison doesn't make sense. The only thing that makes sense is either you fell in love with Penix like really late in the process, and you just felt like because of the Kirk Cousins addition, you were going to be too good to be in that position again. And so you took him knowing that it doesn't really make a ton of sense, but you'll figure it out later. Because it doesn't really make sense, the logic that they're putting out there. Because once again, like by the time Michael Penix even has a pathway, he's old. So what's your guys' opinion on that? Do you see the thought process? Do you like the player?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'll rip the Band-Aid off here. I think the luxury of having a bit more time to digest everything is that nothing is knee-jerk. All of our reactions are a bit more well-grounded and like thought-based, and nothing's reactionary. At this point, it's all like it's dust is settled, like we said. So with that said, I still hate this pick.
I knew you were going to say that.
You know, and I hate it for Penix too. You know, I think
he's a good player.
I think he was the most pro-ready right out of the gates. Either him or Nix could probably come in right away, and you could just manage them.
That was the other thing too. Was like Jordan Love was super raw. He needed time. Michael Penix,
4 years for Jordan Love.
In theory, Penix was one of the most pro-ready quarterbacks, maybe behind Caleb Williams. It's like plug and play.
Exactly.
Start him day one. He's more startable day one than J.J. McCarthy, and J.J. McCarthy might start day one.
And that's a crazy thing is like when I look at Penix, I saw a guy that, you know, I felt like in the right scheme could absolutely do what he did at Washington. You know, just pick apart defenses, find the open guy, deliver balls on time. Like everything that Penix did at Washington is really like you can replicate that in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And the scheme that they ran, I'm forgetting the name of the OC, but I believe he's in Seattle now. So I'm excited to see what Seattle can do potentially long term. You know, if they end up taking a new quarterback in next year's draft. But we're not talking about Seattle. I do think you're right. It was this weird thing where they had they're 1 foot in the door and 1 foot out the door with Kirk Cousins, which makes no sense because Kirk Cousins is a very, very capable starting quarterback in the NFL. He will get you to the playoffs. He can get you playoff wins. I'm not sure how far he can take you.
And this draft pick could have been used to actually help you now.
Exactly. And this is a team that is they're ready to win the NFC South. They're ready to make some noise. And
they needed some defense.
They don't have a pass rusher.
You have a defensive coach, and this team is devoid of any defensive talent, really.
Right. Like, if you like Dallas Turner, go him. If you like Leatu Latu, go him. If you like Burks, if you like a corner. Like
trade back a few picks and take a corner, right?
So there were so many options. I would not be surprised if they had trade offers and they ignored them because they loved Penix so much. But what makes no sense to me is he's ready now. He's going to be 24, and he's sitting on the bench for 2, maybe 3 years. And I think the difference between the Packers and the Falcons is that Aaron Rodgers was still an MVP caliber QB when they drafted Jordan Love.
Right.
He had 4 more years of starting time in Green Bay until he was ready to leave, right? He was the one that kind of said, I'm done with you, Green Bay. I'm going to the Jets. And then Jordan Love took over. This is a brand new contract, right? We haven't even seen Kirk Cousins play in Atlanta.
Coming off an injury.
And he's coming off an injury.
And what does that do to Kirk Cousins, too? Like, what does that say to your quarterback who hasn't taken a single snap for you?
I know. You give him a 4-year deal, basically signaling, like, you're our guy for the next 3-4 years. He's got good ball left in him.
Right.
And you take his replacement right away? I mean, I would feel sick to my stomach if I was Kirk Cousins. Like, why would I sign here if I'm just going to be replaced? Or if I have this, like lingering shadow over me the entire time I'm here in Michael Penix. Like, it's a weird situation. And to be frank, I still hate this pick. Like, it doesn't look better a month ago or a month from when it happened. It looks almost worse.
What do you think, Justin?
I don't like the pick either. I mean, there was no logic behind it, honestly. I don't know where the Falcons GM is in his contract, but maybe he needs to go somewhere else. Because Arthur Blank in that room looked like he walked up to him and was like, what in the heck are you doing? Why did I just waste all this money? If you were going to do this, if I knew this months ago that you were going to plan on doing something like this, we wouldn't have gone after Cousins, right?
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about.
So I think that like, it sucks because I agree with both of you guys. I don't like the pick. I don't think it makes any sense. But on the other hand, like, if Atlanta hadn't signed Kirk Cousins, this would have been such a good pick.
It would have been.
Because
it would have been.
This offense is so ready for like so set up for a young quarterback to thrive right away. And like, you got a ton of good weapons. You have,
Pitts, London.
It's
actually
Bijan.
disgusting. It's actually disgusting.
They just signed Darnell Mooney.
Yeah,
they
got a lot of wide receiver depth they've been bringing in.
They could have saved so much money by not signing Kirk Cousins.
It's like so on one hand, like,
and they could have invested in the defense.
This offense is going to be really good, but on the other hand, it's like he's not going to play. So it's like, I don't understand it. I think it's I think it was a waste of a pick, and I think that like I said, there's no way that the regime can explain this pick in a way that makes sense. You just have to acknowledge that it doesn't make sense, and you either like it or you don't like it. And obviously, the fact that it doesn't make sense, most people aren't going to like it. So,
and their BS justification, explanation, just it really irritated me too.
Right.
Like when you listen,
it's like at least just be upfront and just say that we just fell in love with the prospect after the fact that we signed Kirk Cousins, and we understand that this is going to upset some fans, but we like the fact that we have two really good quarterbacks, and we're willing to take the flack for the fact that we drafted someone we really like. It's like, at least just be upfront about it. You could respect the honesty.
I would love to hear that from a team, and you don't get that often.
Yeah.
So
because they're scared.
So they are scared. I mean, but it's all
So moving through the draft,
I got one more thing to say. My statement is that what are you gonna do if it's the middle of the season and Kirk is just not vibing? Penix comes in and he just lights it on fire. You just wasted.
Well, you just go with Penix and you just eat the money.
That's the problem. Is you really made a really uncomfortable situation for Kirk Cousins because he hasn't built a rapport with this fan base, and so this fan base really doesn't have a ton of reasons to be like, at least in Green Bay. Green Bay fans are gonna love Aaron Rodgers till the day he dies. He's always gonna be a legend in Green Bay, no matter how ugly the breakup was and whatever. It's like. So at least if Aaron Rodgers was struggling, there was no one ever calling for Aaron Rodgers to go to the bench for Jordan Love, even if some fans were high on Jordan Love. In this situation, there's no rapport with Kirk Cousins, so the second he throws an interception, if he throws an interception on the first drive of the first season, there's going to be fans in the stands already yelling to throw Penix in, and it's like, that's just going to be really uncomfortable situation, so it just was unfair to Kirk Cousins too. It just doesn't make sense all around.
Unless you got his money.
So moving through the draft,
there's one pick next that I'm very focused on.
Odunze?
No, my biggest thing right now is Brock Bowers in Vegas.
This is one of my least favorite picks of the first round, and not because of fantasy implications, right? I know I have some Michael Mayer stock in Dynasty. But what I don't understand about this pick in particular is that you do have Michael Mayer. And from an organization standpoint, a tight end is like such a luxury pick, right? And you just taking him in the first round, to me, is such a head scratcher. And I know Brock Bowers is a bit more than a tight end, right? But we said the same thing about Kyle Pitts. And Kyle Pitts really hasn't amounted to anything outside of his rookie season, which was historic. But when you take a tight end in the first round, to me, that's a big reputation stake. Like, you're putting a lot on the table, and the fit in Vegas. I just would have loved to have seen them do something different. We had them taking Fuaga out of Oregon State in our mock, and I do think building up that offensive line, establishing a good nucleus up front for when you are inserting a rookie quarterback is way better than taking a multi-dimensional tight end prospect in Brock Bowers, who, while he might be one of the better players in this draft, if you don't include position overall, you have Michael Mayer, who was one of the best tight ends in the class last year. And while didn't have a great rookie season, he had some injuries. They went through a coaching shift right mid-season. And he came out and said, I didn't have, he said it, this week at OTAs, he said, I didn't have the energy that I had at Notre Dame, basically. I love football, but last year it just wasn't there. My love for the game kind of it dwindled a little bit, and he didn't love coming into the facility every day. That can impact how you play. We're all humans, and so are they. And sometimes when you're in a bad situation, you're not going to get the most out of a player. I would have loved to have seen them give Michael Mayer more of an opportunity and for them to build up front and see what they could do with Gardner and then go from there.
I think that I'm willing to give it a chance. I didn't love. It's only because of Michael Mayer is the only reason why we don't like this pick. And I mean, and it's a very fair point to not like the pick. And I don't love the pick myself, but I'm willing to give it a chance if they run some 2 tight end sets. I think that, you know, if they get really creative, this could be a Rob Gronkowski, Aaron Hernandez type of situation. You know, there is situations where it can work. You have to run a very specific kind of offense. And so it maybe could limit the production of maybe Devontae Adams or Jacoby Myers. But I'm willing to give it a chance, but on paper, it was a little bit of a head scratcher considering they just took a tight end early last year, and it's a position that you don't typically take early in the draft in general.
This was a bad Antonio Pierce pick, and it was kind of like a clout pick to me, where he's like, I want a big name, and he wasn't thinking, like, not saying he was the guy making that decision, but like. You are now the head coach of this team. They brought you in. You are fine after all these like transitions of big names and guys on the inside that should have been getting jobs. You're a guy on the inside who got the job. And I get you're not making the direct call. You have the GM and Mike
Tom Telesco.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the new guy from who was the Chargers.
Yep.
And you just have a lot going on. And if you bring in, you still have Aiden O'Connell, who's coming in his sophomore year. He played decent for you. You got Minshew. Protect them, because if you're going to bring in Brock Bowers when you already have Michael Mayer, and then you have Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams outside, you're going to reduce Devontae Adams because you want Brock Bowers there. I think, and then you're just pushing Devontae Adams out the door more. Because Jacoby's going to stay because he won't be as threatened. Yeah. But like Devontae Adams is one of those guys who's like feed the ball to me.
I like Alec Pierce. I think that he's very similar to Dan Campbell. He kind of gives that vibe off that he's really a player's coach, but he's also a really smart coach. The feeling that I got is kind of the same type of vibe that we all got from the Jahmyr Gibbs pick last year, where we were all like, why did you take Jahmyr Gibbs? We just signed David Montgomery. This makes no sense. This is kind of foolish. This is kind of a luxury pick. To me, it felt like because I had seen a couple of clips of the Raiders talking about Bowers, and it really seemed like it was a situation where they were just like, we took the player that we loved the most, and like it had nothing to do with his position. Like we just really, really loved Brock Bowers. We thought he was one of the best players in the draft, and so we took him because he was there for us. And it was like, so that's why I said I'm willing to give it a chance, because I don't know if they took it with the foresight of like, or like we have this whole game plan in place and like we're gonna, I think it's more like we just took a player that we really, really loved and we will figure it out, because just like the Lions do, they build their scheme to get the best out of their players, instead of like what a lot of teams typically do is like they have a set scheme and they draft for that scheme, like what the Lions' previous regime did, and so I think that that's what Alec Pierce is trying to, do in Vegas, is he's trying to, it is a copycat league, and what the Lions are doing is very successful, and other teams are doing it, and so I think Alec Pierce is doing the same thing, where they're like, we take the players we love, and we'll build a scheme around them to make them successful.
I think my counterpoint to all that is that the running back position, while
it can be
positional value, and both running back and tight end in the first round. Yeah, let's negate that argument. The running back position does not take time to adjust to the NFL game. Like you can become a very elite running back your first year.
Yeah,
in the
that's
league.
True. The tight end,
you take a couple of years for some of these guys. So with Jahmyr Gibbs, while we didn't love the positional value, we said it's going to be fun, it's going to be exciting, and Jahmyr Gibbs has an opportunity to come in right away and be the guy, and that's exactly what he was. And running backs, they touch the ball more, they impact the game more, in my opinion, than a tight end does. You're rocking the Gibbs jersey right now. Like, to me, the difference between a running back and a tight end is pretty simple. Like, you can draft a top 5 all-pro running back immediately in the first round. It's going to take Brock Bowers a few years to get that level. So
We said the
it's
same
just
thing about Sam Laporta. I'm not
Yeah,
saying,
but
I know
Sam-
Sam Laporta's an outlier. I'm
no, I get
I'm
you.
trying to defend the pick a little
But
bit because
where was Sam
I'm not
Laporta
I'm
taken?
not as in the second round.
Exactly.
In the second pick,
Exactly.
the second pick of the second round.
but still,
It's almost a first round pick. But yeah. So anyway,
I mean,
willing-
but still,
I'm not
second round
saying
pick.
that I absolutely love the pick. I'm just saying I think Vegas is doing it right, and so I'm willing to give Alec Pierce a chance to prove that they can make it work with Mayer and Brock Bowers.
I'll give him a chance. And Gronk and Hernandez is an interesting comp. Obviously, Mayer would be more of the Gronk, and Bowers would be more of the Hernandez. It's an interesting.
Hopefully
comp.
not off the field.
I hope so. I mean, wow. But I don't know. To me, it's just like, come on, Vegas. Like, this is such a Vegas pick.
Yeah,
Like,
it is.
I
right?
wish they would have just built up on the O line because they're going to draft the QB.
It's fair. There were
next year, or
there
they're
were
going
some
to get
really good
they're going to
offense-
get a new QB. They have to.
There were some really good offensive linemen on the board, so I will not counter the
Yeah.
fact that there were other good players that probably could have helped them a little bit more.
My problem is I don't. Pierce is coming in as first-year head coach, and I don't trust anyone from ownership down in Vegas. It's been a train wreck for years, and
I mean, you said the same
But
thing about
you're-
the Lions.
Antonio
my-
Pierce, though,
I get that, but like Brad Holmes and Tom Telesco, whoa, like Dan Campbell and Pierce, maybe similar vibe, but here, you know.
Telesco's had some nice picks in LA, but I think the team never really gelled. They never fit entirely together.
They
and I
took
think-
Tyree Wilson last year. I was big on Tyree Wilson.
Yeah, but I'm saying like you're talking within 3 years. Look where the Lions are.
Yeah.
In Vegas with anybody else.
Well,
it's
But I do
been-
think I love your comp of Pierce and Campbell. I do think Antonio Pierce has those similar qualities where he isn't maybe all X's and O's, although I do think both of them are very smart guys, but they are true ralliers of a team.
and I agree with
And
that.
I think Pierce, if there's anyone that can make it work,
Mhm.
in Vegas especially, because they're all about the drama, he's not. He's just about the work. And I do think he can make it work. But that doesn't mean I love the pick or like the pick. But I'm willing to give it a chance. I'm not writing it off like I am with QJ in LA. Another pick that you kind of thought was interesting.
I don't know if you guys got another one. That was my biggest one. But before we move off from Vegas real quick, I just want to say, whoever made that statement that it was a coin flip between Bowers and Arnold as a joke, I don't believe that statement.
Oh no!
Arnold said that.
It was a figure of speech.
I still don't.
I read something on Pride of Detroit from Jeremy Reisman, who actually clarified with Terrion Arnold the quote, because it was misinterpreted. Most people took it as Terrion was actually being literal,
which is crazy.
Being like, oh
there's
yeah,
no
like
way.
they told me they flipped a coin and one was it was either me or Bowers, and it landed on Bowers. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. That's not exactly word for word what Arnold had said, but Jeremy Reisman clarified he got clarification from the Raiders general manager and talked to and their front office essentially said that is not the case, that they did not flip no coins.
That's a
I
crazy
think
statement.
maybe someone called Arnold and it was a figure of speech, like, oh man, like we were between you and Bowers.
It was really
and
a flip of a coin.
It was a flip of a coin as a
example.
Yeah,
Just a way to
it was an analogy.
Yeah,
it was an
there you go.
analogy.
Yeah,
and,
analogy.
and it was taken it was taken literally.
Which was
so
crazy. I was
so
like,
no, that was not the case.
they should have taken. I love him in Detroit, but they probably should have taken Arnold in Vegas.
Yeah.
But they need a line.
Perhaps.
But they need a line more, right? Like you said, prepare for next year or in 2 years with your quarterback. But I don't know if you guys got a big one that's like.
I mean, I love Leatu Latu to the Colts. I think he's going to be a stud. I think they got a steal. I do. Sometimes the Colts just make really good picks. Chris Ballard and company, they just kind of nail.
Chris Ballard just doesn't.
I think they did it again.
Chris Ballard just doesn't overthink the draft.
He doesn't.
He just kind of lets the draft fall he just takes the best player on his board and he doesn't overthink it. He does a really good job with
So
the draft.
I love that pick.
He's a good GM.
Dallas Turner to the Vikings. I like that they trade up. A bit of conviction there. And you get your Daniil Hunter replacement immediately. It's
right.
like, I mean, come on. Sometimes it's a little unfair.
They did trade a lot of picks to get J.J. McCarthy and Dallas Turner. I think if I remember right, the Vikings only have like 3 picks next year at the moment, and so and including they don't have their first or their second rounder, I believe, or maybe
they
do have their
first rounder, and then they don't pick till like the 4th or 5th.
Yeah, that's what it was. I think they do have their first, but yeah. So the Vikings did really push all their chips in for whatever reason, because it seems like they're rebuilding. But I also understand that if they felt like Dallas Turner was falling, that there was some value there. I really liked Byron Murphy, the pick between the ones we just talked about. I think Byron Murphy to Seattle was a great pick. I think Byron Murphy was arguably the best defensive player in the entire draft. And Mike McDonald over there in Seattle is building up this defense. I mean, you got Tariq Woolen and Devon Witherspoon, and now you have Byron Murphy.
And he's licking his chops, because Byron Murphy is a pass rush specialist at the DT position.
And they've been needing something on that line.
It's an unfair advantage.
He's a beast. I think Seattle. Seattle is a situation to me where they're like a quarterback away from being a perennial playoff team.
I think they're a quarterback away from winning that division. Straight up.
Yeah, I mean,
Sam Howell.
Yeah.
One pick I also like, but I even liked it more when the next round came around, is Jared Verse to the Rams. Because they ended up picking up his boy Braden Fisk in the second or third round, and they paired them together. And now you don't have that like absolute generational talent anymore, with Aaron Donald retiring, but you have a duo that can probably really make it up for you.
For sure. And they already had Kobe Turner, who was a stud last year.
Yeah. They're building a defensive line.
Their defensive line is scary. He's a DT. But he's a pass rushing DT. I believe he had like 9.5, 10 sacks last year.
You'll have him and Fisk in the middle, and then you'll have Verse on the outside, and then you just find that other guy, and you're rolling. And they still got Floyd in the linebacker, or not anymore?
I don't think so. No. Going a little bit lower, a lot lower actually. And I think it's like the quietest pick of the first round, maybe. But Ricky Pearsall.
I knew you were going to say that.
Here's the thing about
because he took him in Dynasty.
That's not when I first saw the pick, I was like, Ricky Pearsall. We kind of like briefly talked about him going in the first round, and we saw Land McConkey at the end. But when you saw the reaction from C.J. Stroud about Ricky Pearsall, like literally, he spun out of his chair.
And he didn't
really want him. It's not like he played with him in college. To me, that signals a guy, not in C.J. Stroud, that knows a good receiver. And Ricky Pearsall, I think, is going to do exactly what San Francisco wants to do. He's a physical route-running receiver. He's going to block. He's going to get open. He's going to make plays. He's going to do the right thing. To me, as soon as they move off of Debo, because I think Ayuk is the much better wide receiver.
I think Debo's the odd one out.
Ayuk and Pearsall, and that offense is scary. Like, it's going to be so hard to guard those guys, because in-man coverage, those are two guys that are really difficult to cover, and that's exactly what Kyle Shanahan wants to do, those mismatches, those nightmare scenarios where your corners are asked to do something that not a lot of people can do in the NFL, and that's cover these guys. So I think for that offense long-term, a brilliant pick, and at first I didn't really get it, because I was like, you got Debo, you got all these guys, but then eventually they're going to move off of one of them, and I think it's going to be Debo.
I get why you guys say Debo.
And I think Pearsall is a perfect fit in San Francisco's offense.
I get why you say Debo, because you'll have Ayuk as the one. You can have Pearsall, then you'll still have Kittle. And the key thing is you don't need Debo as a receiver, because you'll have Ayuk as the main one. And then the big thing with Debo was they used him as a running back and a receiver at that time before they acquired McCaffrey and everything. So his value was so high at that point because he was doing so much.
I think, too, Debo's slightly on the decline. I mean, he's still a really good player, but Ayuk is kind of ascending, and Debo's kind of slowly has dropped a couple of ticks. So I think it's more so, one's kind of ascending and one's maybe descending a little bit. But no, I agree. I mean, I'm not as excited about it as you are, but I
wouldn't say I'm excited, because I don't, like, in terms of fantasy, right, I don't think he's ever going to be like a stud, but I think for what San Fran wants to do, he is like the prototypical San Francisco wide
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say Kyle Shanahan, what he loves in offensive players is, because he's obviously an offensive mind, is he loves guys who will do exactly what he asks them to. Because Kyle
Exactly.
Shanahan, let's be honest, he has a big ego. He thinks that he's the biggest piece of the offense. I mean, he's not
Probably.
out there on the field, but he honestly thinks of himself as the MVP of the offense. He just wants his offense to follow. He wants his offense to follow exactly step for step run the play exactly how he wants it to, and like that's why he likes Brock Purdy is because he's such a system quarterback. That's why he likes Ayuk because he's a really good route runner. McCaffrey, he's about one of the smartest players in the NFL. Ricky Pearsall, he's a smart player, a good route runner. It fits.
And Kittle just blocks and does his job.
It fits what Shanahan's looking for. Yeah, I mean, I think we hit the first round pretty good. I mean, Xavier Worthy, that's a interesting pick in Kansas City. I mean, how many times is Andy Reid going to select or is he going to grab a speedster to try and be that everybody automatically tries to compare to Tyreek Hill, even though Tyreek Hill is really a one-of-one player. He tried to do it with from Georgia, Hardman. Tried to do it with Mecole Hardman, and then he tried to acquire Kadarius Toney, and like he's been looking for someone to fit that Tyreek Hill role because for whatever reason, Andy Reid really wants a guy who's just a speedy field stretcher, who's just electric with the ball in his hands. And, maybe he's finally found that in Xavier Worthy after a few tries.
I'm skeptical.
I'm a little skeptical too, but I wanted to shout out the pick.
No, it's a good shout because you're right. And this is the, back-to-back Super Bowl champs, right? I mean, we got to shout them out.
Right.
And I guess we can't really doubt them because they've won back-to-back, but at the same time,
there's a good reason
he's
why they've done
160.
that,
He doesn't have much more meat on the bones than me, and he's also got 5 inches on me.
He just took the guy who set the record for the fastest 40-yard dash in NFL history. So, if with that kind of a crazy speed, you can maybe give a little bit on maybe some route running and ability when you have that
because
that's true.
Insane legendary speed.
Because this man right here is the better receiver
at Texas. Yeah, there were some rumors that there were some issues with his character because of because he's diabetic or something.
I don't know. He was not happy falling out.
But I will say Chris Ballard defended him so it's like the grave on that microphone. He got so angry.
If I remember right, I think he's diabetic, and so I think people say when his blood sugar is really low, he gets really cranky and he can kind of be a pain in the butt. They can say they said apparently when his blood sugar is low, he doesn't pay attention in meetings. He can kind of be attitudey on the field. He doesn't listen to coaches, and so some people took that as a way of being like, hey, you're going to have to really watch, you're going to have someone on him, all day, every day, making sure that, he's fully healthy because if his blood sugar gets low, then, things could get bad. But no, I think that was a great value in the second round for Indianapolis. And I agree. I think Adonai Mitchell, talent-wise, is a more all-around better polished receiver than Xavier Worthy. So I think that was a great addition for Anthony Richardson.
Do you guys want to move to the Lions now, or do we want to shout out any more picks?
My statement would be: is there someone where you're like, I'm surprised they fell this far?
Terrion Arnold.
I mean, outside the first round, is there anyone you're thinking of?
Outside the first round,
that you can think
Cooper
back
DeJean. I think most people had him going in the first. I think most people thought he was a top 20 to 25 pick. I don't think there was very many mock drafts that had him past. Where Philly took him. I think that was, where Philly took Quinyon. I think at 22 is kind of like the floor of Cooper DeJean because what we talked about in our mock draft episode, he's so versatile. He can play slot, he can play outside, he can play safety. He's sneaky athletic because that's the words you have to use when it's a white guy. But yeah, he went in the second round and. That was a steal. I mean, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. I mean, we'll talk later, I'm sure, about our favorite drafts. But Philly, man, somehow, some way, Howie Roseman does it every single year where the draft just falls in a way and he just gets the best players and ends up walking away with one of the best drafts because no better way, because what did we talk about in the mock draft episode? You had Darius Slay. You have why am I blanking on his name?
Bradbury,
You have
I was gonna say
Bradbury.
CJ.
You have you have your cornerback room that's aging, and then all of a sudden you get 2 starting caliber cornerbacks in the same draft.
It's so unfair.
It's not fair. But yeah, so Cooper DeJean, that's a great pick. I'm also gonna sorry, I don't mean to dominate the conversation, but Johnny Newton, I have to shout out.
Yep.
We talked about him, getting him in the second round when I pretty much in the mock draft episode said he was one of my favorite players, and I thought he was one of the best defensive players in the draft. To get him in the second round, even though he has a foot injury, it sounds like he'll be okay. Just something to monitor, but I think Washington had a home run draft. I'll probably mention them later too about what they did, but yeah, Johnny Newton was a good pick.
Jackson Powers Johnson.
That was gonna be one of my two.
I love that pick too.
That was
somehow he fell he made it like almost the end of the second round. He was like mid.
He was picked 44, 212. But going to the Raiders, kind of eases, the quote unquote pain of not taking one early in the draft. But the fact that he did fall that far gives me some concern about just how NFL teams view him and where he'll be where he'll play and where he'll end up. Another guy that I did like, Johnny Newton. That was another one that I kind of that we shouted out.
Mm-hmm. Any Patriot picks you want to shout out?
No one's surprising that
Joe
fell.
Milton, your new favorite quarterback.
No, RE the Patriots. I shout out Javon Baker. That was the one that I said was like the guy that I wanted just as a steal. And the Patriots got him in the 4th round.
Polk,
Demario Douglas. I mean, there's guys, Kendrick Bourne. It's a wide receiver room that hasn't really been sorted out yet, so it's exciting to see who's going to take over. They still got to pan out, though. And I think that's the big thing is it's a lot of question marks right now, and I don't know if these guys actually have the talent to play at the next level, but it'll be fascinating to see if they can. But it's just a really unproven room, which is scary because I think Drake May needs someone a bit more, reassuring, knowing someone that he can actually rely on a bit more than what he has right now. But we'll let it play out. We'll see how it goes. It should be fun.
No, I'm hoping for the Patriots, but you just got to figure out, there's different adjustments, right? Wide receiver room. We kind of have a feeling, but we don't know how the QB room is going to pull out. Like, will May be starting week 1? Will it be Brissett?
Yeah, not sure about who. That's true. Not sure who's going to start.
I mean, Milton looks good, but I think he's locked in pretty much as QB3.
It'll be between him and Zappy. Milton. More of an experiment. I feel like maybe
that's why you
I think Milton's going to be your tush push quarterback.
That's what maybe he's a gadget guy.
You're going to use him in certain packages, and
halftime.
They are going to keep him. Yeah, they are going to keep him on the roster because you cannot deny. I mean, I'm not trying to hype up Joe Milton. I don't think Joe Milton. I know there was a small subset of NFL draft Twitter that seemed to think Joe Milton was like a first-round quarterback. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying his arm talent is undeniable, and he has like a crazy arm. And so, if you can develop it, which he's very, very, very raw, but if you can figure it out. He has the potential to be like Josh Allen. There is that potential in there. It's okay.
I know.
I'm just saying.
I gotta stir.
He's got the arm talent.
You got him going.
I'm not saying it's happening. Now you're making me defend a take that I'm not actually.
Well, that's how it goes.
All right.
My only other one
right now.
My only other one that was interesting to me, it wasn't crazy, but he sat at the top of the board for so long, and that was TJ Tampa. From Iowa State. He ended up going to the Ravens. Now you're going to have him and Nate Wiggins back there with Kyle Hamilton. I think it's an interesting secondary, especially with some of the defensive players they lost, which weirdly went to other teams in the AFC North, especially the Steelers. But I don't know, that he just sat there for a while, so I was like intrigued. I don't know if he has some injuries that were unknown or some other stuff, but yeah, he sat there for a bit. But aside from that, my other guy was Powers Johnson with you on that one. So, I mean, it was an interesting draft, but Lions talk.
Yeah, let's get into it. I'll just rattle off the names.
You can rip through the names. And
so obviously, first round, Terran Arnold. We've already briefly, I shouldn't even say briefly. We've kind of extensively talked about him to an extent. Ennis Rakestraw Jr. in the second round. Giovanni Manu in the 4th, along with Sione Baki in the 4th. Then jump to the 6th round where we got Makai Wingo and Christian Mahogany. I think the most fascinating one was Manu out of all these guys. The offensive tackle out of British Columbia, right? You see the tape on the TV on the big screen.
You're like, how do you get this tape?
He's playing guys that are like 5'7", 5'8", 5'9", and they're defensive ends, right? And you're like, where does a guy who's 6'8" from, I believe he's American Samoa, is that it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
How does he end up in British Columbia, right? And then you kind of hear his story, and you're like, wow. It's just crazy, some of these guys' journeys to the NFL. He, to me, while a super raw, major project, just a fascinating pick. I think this is a Brad Holmes staple pick. Kind of, balls on the table. This is my reputation here. I make these kinds of picks, and you're gonna enjoy them. I loved this pick. I did. I thought it was just awesome. It was weird. It was quirky, but I liked it from Brad Holmes. I do. I just the conviction and the confidence to take a guy like Manu, the quote unquote best kept secret. I thought that was really cool.
Is there a certain one you're a fan of? I have mine.
I mean, honestly, I was either gonna say Arnold or Manu. First off, do we want to go one pick at a time, or do you just want to talk about our favorite pick?
I was just weird. Well, he already ripped off his favorite.
I just want to get into my favorite pick because honestly,
So
you can use any pick.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if it's
whatever
Arnold or
whatever you
not.
want to talk about. Talk about.
I'll talk about Manu some more because I did like that pick as well, and I thought it was very interesting. First off, he's a behemoth. He's massive. And he's got a lot of length.
Literally,
actually, he's got a ton of length.
7 feet.
And
should be playing in the NBA, honestly.
yeah, and they were saying that he had a Pro Bowl he had a pro day, and he absolutely killed it. He was testing off the charts, and it raised the eyebrows of a lot of scouts, and including the Detroit Lions, and Brad Holmes in the scouting department raised their eyebrow after the pro day and really looked into him some more. And like you said, the competition he played was less than JUCO level. It was borderline high school football.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of projection. But seriously, his frame and his size is undeniable. If you can coach that up, and his potential is unreal. He could be a franchise left tackle. It sounds like they're gonna move him around quite a bit to get him familiar with playing at the NFL level and to try and get him some snaps. Just like the Lions did last year with Broderick Martin. He pretty much redshirted last year just to because he was so incredibly raw. And he was from Western Kentucky, which that's a more reputable program than British Columbia.
Yeah.
So what they're going to do, what sounds like what they're going to do with Manu is they're going to try and mold him maybe start him at guard, and with the long-term outlook to maybe get him out at tackle. But his development is going to be quite a long way. It sounds like 2 years minimum before you actually see him realistically playing some serious snaps, barring a crazy injury, because of the draft capital you spent on him. You're going to have to keep him on the 53-man roster. So unless you have some serious injuries, you do not want to see Manu out on the field, this year or next year. But it's going to be a couple of years. But no, he was a really good pick. Or at least I should say really interesting pick, but they clearly liked him because they gave up some capital to go get him. But yeah, no, I'm really interested in that pick, and it's quite interesting. Now we're at the point with the Lions where their draft is not immediate impact guys. How we're used to always being and how we've always been primed as Lions fans is your draft picks play, and if they don't play year 1 or even year 2, then they're probably gone, and they're going to go develop somewhere else because we can't develop players, right?
Right.
We're at the point now in our organization where there's a good chance, like with this draft class, maybe one guy is actually gets serious snaps, and the rest of them are special teams and or backups, which is a good thing, which means like last year's class are actually going to be like your rookie class because those are going to be guys that are actually going to start getting some snaps. Like Kobe Sorsdal, you're actually going to start seeing some more out of, stuff like that. And so then it'll probably be next year is going to be the year where you're going to see, where you're going to be hearing a lot of more of these names. So it's more like, in a way, your team's so deep that you almost have like a system, almost like a development system where you're not even going to see these guys for a year or two, or have real expectations of them. But no, Manu was a good pick, and I'm really interested to see how he develops.
My favorite one was Mekhi Wingo out of LSU.
Really?
I think it's.
I thought you were going to say Sione Vaki.
No,
Utah boy.
No, I love Utah, and he's going to be a great asset. I like that. There's a lot of discussion saying he might be walking into Craig Reynolds' job, and they might dip on Craig Reynolds. I read an article this morning.
Vaki's got that special teams
flexibility. Yeah, exactly. I think he's he's staying automatically special teams, but I think it's where do you want to use him in depth?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to throw him at third or fourth string running back? Do you want to dice it up and put him in that safety area? It's all up to them. But I love Mekhi Wingo. He is defensive tackle. I know a big thing that people, we have Aleem. I know we just brought in Reeder. I know the big thing, Martin. Yeah, and the big thing was, can we have someone opposite of Hutch? I get we brought in Davenport, which is kind of like, I don't know. It's going to be fine, but obviously we could have probably done better, potentially. Mm-hmm. But I think Wingo is the big thing you look at, right? You talk about Broderick Martin. I think he'll be better than Broderick Martin if he hits his full potential. And we talked about before how Reeder can come in and it's be like, hey, McNeil, you're on a contract year, you're playing for your job, right? I think that could go both ways. I think he could slot in next to Reeder or McNeil and play great because he is a bigger dude, but he's a little skinnier than you think he'd be for his position. But he has a motor that just keeps going.
He is a little smaller.
He's a bit of an awkward.
His size is
because he's not big enough to play DT at the NFL level. So that's either gain weight to play DT, or he could drop weight and be a DN, but then you're looking at him as a DN like, okay, does he have the explosiveness to get off the edge?
Or you can play...
Which you just got to see it off the edge, though. It's a lot different playing DT than defensive end. So, like, can he play an edge position consistently opposite Aiden? I don't know yet, but I do think it is interesting because if he does put on the weight, right, well, then now you have a pass rushing guy up the middle to pair along with Reeder and McNeil and Martin, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if he is,
if you want to shrink him down
the
a bit,
opposite, right? Let's say he goes the other way. Now you have a guy that you're kind of developing into an edge, right? And you're kind of in the same sense as Manu, kind of developing him on the side, and seeing if he can get there and be productive from the outside as opposed to the inside. So he's intriguing because
he's
we're
like
not
Mekhi,
sure what
right?
his
Where's
use
he
is going to be yet.
So I think a lot of people thought he was like a possible third, fourth round talent. I think the reason that he fell was because of what we're saying right now, which is like his position is a little unknown because his size is almost better to play as a defensive end, but he played most of his career on the inside at defensive tackle, and I think I remember Brad Holmes saying that they think that he is more, they have a vision to play him more inside. And so my guess is the reason that he fell was because maybe a lot of teams saw the same thing on tape, which is they might have thought he's better suited to play on the inside, and therefore he's more of a role player. He's not like an every down player. Like he's a guy that you'll sub in to play on like NASCAR packages where you play smaller and you're really playing for the rush, right? You're really playing for the pass rush. So I think that there is potential. And I do think that they're going to give him a chance to play at defensive end. I think that he could maybe fill the John Kaminsky kind of role where he plays inside and outside, depending on, the situation. But I do, and that is not a knock on him. That to be a high-end role player in the NFL is a good thing.
It's valuable.
You don't need your 6th-round picks to become starters, and if they do, that's kind of like getting finding a diamond, right? Like that's not the expectation. Like for example, Malcolm Rodriguez is a high-end role player. Like if you're starting him, then your linebackers are probably not good. And if he's your backup, then you're probably extremely happy about that because he's a guy who's capable of starting in the league, right? And I think
same thing with Derek Barnes too.
Right.
A 4th-round pick, makes some big plays. He's not a starter, right? But he's kind of developed into a guy that you're confident in when he's out on the field for getting however many steps he gets a game.
Yeah.
Like he's going to make plays, and that's kind of what I think you're getting at with Wingo here. What you're both getting at with Wingo is like he could be that kind of a guy, right? He could be a James Houston on the inside potentially if he really commits to being an interior force. He could be that 3rd down defensive tackle. You pair that with Houston, Hutch, McNeil. Like that's a pass rushing, like a barrage almost. Like you're getting blitzed by just 4 guys. You can drop back 8. It's a perfect way to kind of develop a team
because
and build in and
with
out.
Defensive lines, you want a stable of guys, and you want guys that can do different things. For example, you don't want DJ Reader. You don't want DJ Reader like on third. If the Lions got a team to like 3rd and 20 or 25. That's you're not playing to stop the run. You don't want DJ Reader out there trying to rush the passer. You want Mekhi Wingo out there. He has a better chance at actually getting free. And you want DJ Reader out there because he's going to take up blocks and he's going to open things up for Hutchinson and whatever. And most importantly, he's going to be there to stop the run. But when you're trying to play small and you're trying to get after the quarterback, you want to have options to be able to rotate in guys that. Okay, we got, bigger guys, who can stop the run, like Broderick Martin and DJ Reader, and you got guys that are a little bit better at rushing the passer. And so I think that, like I said, you have a deck of guys that you can kind of play with and use in certain situations to and that's what you want. So I think Mekhi Wingo, I think that's a good pick, and I think that he could be a really good player for us.
Yeah, and I think the same can be said about Mahogany too. Guy,
that's when I just
a versatile guy.
Like what
was a 6th-round pick. It's a depth pick on the O-line. It's a good move, and teams had him a bit higher. Draft experts had him a bit higher than the 6th round.
Much higher.
So they're saying that's a pretty good pick. We'll see. I mean, I'll never complain about depth on the O-line. And then the one guy that we haven't really Rakestraw. We haven't talked about Rakestraw at all.
I know, there hasn't been a lot of chatter.
This guy's a dog. That's kind of the first thing Brad Holmes said about Rakestraw. And I do think it's interesting. He's a bit smaller, doesn't have a ton of production at the college level, although he played a ton.
He doesn't have a ton of
injury.
He doesn't have a ton of interceptions, but he has a lot of pass breakups. He has a lot of ball production. He just doesn't have a lot of production, turning over the football, right? And
which to me is not a big deal, but people were
He's
complaining about
down,
that. Like
if he's getting pass breakups, that means he's getting his hands on the football. He just needs to catch them.
But a bit smaller, but he's still man corner. He's still a guy that's going to tackle. He's going to play physical, and I think that's exactly what this team is looking for in a cornerback. And I think he has a bit more versatility to go inside as well, which is nice to know in case you do extend Carlton Davis, right? Like you have that flexibility with Rakestraw where you're not relying on him to be the number 2 guy outside, because I do think Arnold is going to be the number 1 at some point, whether it's the end of his rookie year or into his 2nd year. You kind of know right away with cornerbacks if they're going to be stars.
Still got a Meek Robertson.
You do have a Meek Robertson too, so there's not a ton of pressure on Rakestraw to be the guy right away. But what I love about Rakestraw is just that dog mentality that he's going to do whatever it takes for the team, and he's willing to get dirty. He's willing to make plays. He's willing to tackle.
That's a big thing.
That's a big thing. That's a big thing because we've had some quarterbacks that can't tackle. And I don't think there's anything more frustrating than seeing a guy get to the second level and the guy can't make the tackle, or seeing like a running back get to the second level and the corner can't make the tackle. Is kind of what I'm trying to say.
So I feel like I have a really good idea of what the Lions' plan is with Arnold and Rakestraw. So I think it's probably pretty obvious that Arnold's probably going to be an outside corner, a starter at some point. Now, I feel like I have a really good understanding of how the Lions are. We all expect and think that Arnold's going to be a starter day one. I don't think that's a given. They signed Amik Robertson, and he wants to play, and he's made that very clear. I mean, I followed him on social media. He's a really good follow on Twitter. You know, he's totally Detroit. He's totally Detroit. He wanted Detroit to accumulate more corners because he's like, I want to beat them all out. Like, I want to beat them all.
He's a lone wolf,
so
man.
I want to start, and I love competition. He's such a scrappy guy. So Amik Robertson wants to play. You still have Emmanuel Mosley, who was a starting cornerback for the San Francisco 49ers, and he was a really good one. And yeah, he's had a couple of years of injuries, but the Lions did not sign him to sit on the bench. They signed him to compete to start. And so and Carlton Davis is going to be a starter. You didn't trade for him, and you're not paying him what you're paying him and not starting him. He was kind of like Cam Sutton last year, where it's like he's locked in as one of the outside corners, and there's competition for the other one.
And he's really good too.
Yeah, he's a good corner.
It's not like it's just being handed to him. Like,
No,
he's earned it
for
in
sure.
his time in the NFL.
He's probably a lower end cornerback 1 in this league, but a high end cornerback 2, and so that's exactly what the Lions are looking for. So it's going to be Arnold, Emmanuel Mosley, and Amik Robertson that are going to be battling for outside cornerback 2 to start day one. I think inevitably by the end of the season it'll probably be Terry and Arnold, but day one I cannot say for sure who it's going to be.
It's a little concerning to me. I want Arnold to start day one.
I don't think that's a problem whatsoever. You want competition. You want.
I know.
I'm not saying the Lions breed, and you want Arnold. You want to keep a chip on Arnold's shoulder. You don't want to just hand him the starting job.
I dislike competition. I love competition. But I am saying is if he doesn't win the job, I think that's slightly concerning.
I don't think so. I disagree. Yeah. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs didn't win the starting running back.
But that wasn't
he eventually did by the end of the season.
I guess that's.
But that's different though, because we knew it was going to be a like 1A, 1B kind of situation with.
It's not. It's the same with JMO. He wasn't given the reins, and he earned it towards the end of the season last year. That hey, you don't need to bring back
JMO's tough because he hasn't played a full season.
I'm just saying. I don't think that's a concern. I really don't. Emmanuel Mosley's been a good corner in this league. Sometimes it can be a situation.
I'm just saying, a guy off of 2 ACL tears.
Hold on. Can it be realistic that the Lions just have 3 really, really good outside corners? Is that out of the realm of possibilities? That Arnold,
I think it is out of the realm of
actually is good enough to start.
I actually do think it's out of the realm of possibilities that they have 3 really good outside
corners. So I'm going to keep going because I wanted to get to Ennis Rakestraw.
Yeah.
So that was the outside cornerback situation. I don't think that it's a concern if Arnold doesn't start day one.
I do. I'm gonna have to push back on that.
All right. But
good stuff.
Ennis Rakestraw is going to.
I'm very indifferent.
I don't think it's a really big deal
because I'm like, well, your first round pick.
Did Jack Campbell start at all last year?
He did.
Jack Campbell's not Terry Arnold.
I'm just saying,
he only started last year because of injury.
And that's the thing is, I was concerned about Jack Campbell all year long.
Okay, and reports already are out of OTAs that he looks great, and Aaron Glenn even said today he looks like a true Mike linebacker. And
I need to see it
too.
Jack Campbell.
I'm not.
Yeah, Jack Campbell.
Okay, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Jack Campbell's an awesome player. I'm just saying there's just like we talked about a couple minutes ago that your draft class isn't expected to start anymore because you have a really good team. You have a Super Bowl roster. You're not if you're a corner or if you're a rookie. Before you go off, who's the only starter? Who's the only rookie? There was only 2 rookies last year for the Lions that started day one. Can you name them? It started on the starting
Laporta and Branch.
Okay. And Laporta was a historic.
But I do think it's a bit inaccurate to say that Gibbs is not a starter.
Laporta was a historically great tight end, arguably the greatest rookie tight end ever. and Brian Branch is already considered one of the, if not the best nickel corner in the NFL. Meaning that in order for you to earn a roster or to earn a starting spot on this Lions team, and the Lions are even better this year, you have to be like elite of the elite right away rookie season. And you even said a few minutes ago that it takes some time to develop for these guys.
It does, but here's the thing. The cornerback 2 spot on this team
You're
last
trying to
year
act like
was
it's
Kendall
an easy
Vildor.
job.
You bring in Emmanuel Mosley, who's off of 2
disrespecting
ACLs.
Emmanuel
I'm not
Mosley.
disrespecting him. He's off of 2 ACLs. And Amik Robertson was the cornerback 3
No, he wasn't. He was
in
starting
Vegas.
last year.
But he was the cornerback 3 in Vegas.
No, he was a starter.
Cornerback 3 in
No,
Vegas.
he started on the inside and on the outside last year. He started.
He still was
both
a starter, but he was the
positions.
cornerback 3. He was the cornerback 3.
Who are the other 2 corners there?
Names are escaping me.
How is he cornerback 3?
I just know he was.
How do you know he was cornerback 3 on the roster?
I just
and don't
know
even
he
know the other 2 corners.
I don't know
All
off
right.
the top of my head, but I know.
So, Terrion Arnold's not concerning if he doesn't start day one.
No. It is a concern because this is a guy that was drafted in the first round. This is a guy that wasn't supposed to get to 24. This is a guy that was supposed to go top 15. So we're talking about one of the elite cornerback prospects in the draft. That is a starter day one. If he is not a starter day one, that's a concern to me.
Jameer Gibbs
Because
was
Amik
taken
Robertson
12th overall and he didn't
Emmanuel
start.
Mosley are not
Jack
good enough, in my opinion, to,
So hold on, wait a minute.
to outpace a
Wait a
first-round
minute.
talent. in Terrion
24th
Arnold.
overall should be a starter day one. Your 12th overall
No.
pick and your 16th overall pick
You're looking.
last year.
You're looking at the number. I'm looking at the name. You're looking at the number. I'm looking at the name. Terrion Arnold was a top 15 player. Terrion Arnold was considered the best cornerback in the draft class, right there with Quinyon Mitchell. That is a starting player day one.
Jack Campbell was LB1 in the draft last year.
And
he didn't
I-
start day one.
And that's a concern. I've already
not.
said Jack Campbell concerning.
There's your corners.
Corey Bennett.
All right. So my point's been proven. Okay. All right. So
they didn't have a good.
they did not.
They didn't. We knew Vegas didn't have a good cornerback room. I'm pretty sure.
All right.
I
I haven't even gotten to Ennis Rakestraw yet because we've dragged on with the Terrion Arnold thing. It's his rookie season. What did Brad Holmes just say to the media this offseason?
Okay, I don't care if
About
it's the rookie season. You come in to play right away. You come in to compete. You come in to start. That's what happens when you're a first-round pick in the NFL, and that's what happens when you're one of the best defensive players in the draft. You should be a starter day one. So I'm expecting Arnold to start, and if he's not a starter, I will be disappointed.
All right. Well,
That's just what I'm
that's your
saying.
opinion, and it's not a good one, but
How's it not a good opinion?
It's valid.
You expect the guy to start right away if they are considered one of the best players in the draft at their position.
the Lions have a good cornerback room. They do.
It's good because they invested in the draft, though.
Emmanuel
Mosley.
You're disrespecting Emmanuel Mosley and Amik Robertson.
I'm not, though.
Yes, you are.
You're paying them $6 million and $4 million. Terrion is going to make way more down the line.
You're only paying that to Emmanuel Mosley because of the injuries. If not, he'd be making probably what Carlton Davis is making.
Okay, but
right now.
he's injury prone. So we have an injury prone
injury
quarterback.
prone doesn't mean you can't. When you're healthy, you don't produce.
How am I
If he's
supposed
out
to
there
assume
producing-
he's healthy? How is he going to?
If he's out there week one, he's healthy.
Is he the same player? Is he the same player that he was off of 2 ACL tears? I doubt it.
If he beat Terrion Arnold, then he must be because you clearly think so highly of him, which I am too. Anyway,
I think
I think what you're doing right now is you're giving him a pass when we need to have a standard of this team.
no. What I think is
especially
you haven't
first round talent. And
you haven't
Arnold
sunk your
dropped to 24.
You haven't sunk your teeth into this team yet, and you haven't learned you haven't learned how they operate, and you haven't because they're first round rookies.
You're focusing on the team. I'm talking about the player. I'm talking about the player. I'm talking about Arnold specifically. I'm not talking about the team. Arnold should be starting day one because he was one of the best defensive players in the draft.
Okay,
end of discussion.
This was an offensive heavy draft. So saying he's the best defensive player in the draft doesn't mean he's Aiden Hutchinson.
I'm not saying he's Aiden Hutchinson, but he's still one of the best defensive players in the draft. That's his starter. I don't care if it's an offensive draft.
So is Quinyon Mitchell a failure if he doesn't beat out Darius Slay and Bradbury?
He absolutely should. There is no reason.
And if he doesn't, is he concerning?
Yes.
I disagree. I think that's completely wrong.
Quinyon Mitchell.
If Quinyon Mitchell doesn't start over Darius Slay and Bradbury day one, that's a concern. He's saying yes.
He absolutely should start over them.
Those are two
Bradbury
guys,
and Slay are both way past their prime.
They're both really good corners still.
Is one of the best players in the draft at his position.
Well, he's not going to start day one, and you're going to all of a sudden.
He should be though. He should. I wouldn't be surprised if they cut one of them.
He's in a deep.
I agree with both ways. I don't think he will, but I think he should. Because
I don't
Slay's
think
old
that he
now.
should. I don't.
Slay and Bradbury are
Slay.
both old.
I
and
don't
they're
think he
not
will,
productive.
but I think he
They were
should.
cooked at the end of last year. They're absolutely cooked. If Quinn Mitchell is not starting, that is an
Justin's
indictment
like
on Mitchell.
ultimate fence sitter right now. Anyway,
I'm just saying,
Okay,
when you take
we
one
can
of the
move
best
on. We're
players in
not-
the
we're not
draft,
gonna-
they should be a starter.
We're
I don't
not-
know why
we're
that's
not
so
gonna
crazy.
agree.
I don't know why that's so crazy.
because I understand things, I guess, differently.
I understand
Anyway.
nothing.
I'm just
So-
holding Arnold to a standard. I expect him to start, and I want him to start, and I think he's going to be great.
I just understand how the Lions operate, so I'm not. I
Trade
wouldn't
up
be.
for him for no
I wouldn't
reason.
be surprised
They
if
trade-
they.
trade
I
up
wouldn't
for
be
him.
surprised if he didn't start week 1. And I.
Let's
and I
take a guy off two ACL tears.
before we started
and
arguing,
the Raiders quarterback.
Go ahead.
Before we argued, I even said I believe Terry Arnold would earn the job throughout the season, just as Jahmyr Gibbs did. He earns more, just like Jack Campbell did. That's how this team operates: is they start their rookies off earning not given a lot, and they lean on their veterans early for 2 reasons. For one, because they don't want to expect too much of their rookies; they don't want to put too much on their plate, and for 2, because they want these guys to earn it, and they want them to earn their spots. The only reason why Laporta and Branch played so much last year is because they played like Pro Bowlers from like the second they stepped on the field, and the coaching staff even admitted that they did not expect them to be as awesome as they were day
But you're,
one.
you're
And they were
proving my point right now, though.
That Arnold's going to walk on the field and be.
If Arnold isn't that level of talent, if he isn't
so
that,
you're essentially saying if Arnold doesn't produce like the way Sam Laporta and Brian Branch did, that he's not
No.
disappointed. That's exactly what you just said.
No.
And those two are
I'm
like
saying
some of the best rookies that this
you're not letting me
franchise has
finish.
ever seen.
I'll let you talk. I'll let you talk.
No, I'm just saying. No, that's exactly what you said. You're saying that's my point. Brian Branch and Sam Laporta walked in day one and were absolute pro. And
They
were
impressed
perennial
the
Pro
coaching
Bowlers.
staff
No,
enough to
let
earn
me
the
finish.
spot in training
Let me
camp.
finish. I
through
said
the
day
offseason.
one they stepped on the field and they were perennial Pro Bowlers, and the coaching staff had no choice but to play them. And you're essentially saying, yeah, so Arnold should do the same thing, or else I'm disappointed in him, which is exactly what you're saying. Is exactly what you're saying about Quinyon Mitchell. You're saying the same thing. You're saying if these guys don't come in
and do that immediately.
if they don't come in, your expectations are absolutely insane because now
How are they insane?
because you're essentially saying
How are they insane?
what Laporta and Branch did is now the standard. That's ridiculous. Laporta is
It's a
arguably the
first-round talent
greatest,
and one of the best players in the
And
draft.
neither of them were drafted
At
in the
his
first
position
round.
in Terran Arnold.
and those
That
are
is
two of the greatest draft picks Brad Holmes will probably ever make.
But also they're offensively, so it's easier to make a better
are you
production.
agreeing with him that you think that that's the standard? That you think every player should play
Not
to
every
the
player.
standard that
Not every
Laporta
player.
and Branch just did?
No,
every
not every
first
player.
round player that was taken as high as Arnold was. That's ridiculous.
You'd expect them to, wouldn't
No,
you,
you
at
don't
some
expect
point?
them to. That's insane. That's insane to say that. Come on.
It's
That's
not.
insane.
As a first-round pick,
Laporta
you're
made
supposed to
a
be walking
Pro
out of
Bowl
the
as a
field and ready to
rookie.
go.
If
Laporta
you-
made Pro
thank
Bowl
you.
as rookie,
Thank
so
you.
you're essentially saying
Especially when you're one of the best players in the draft
that's
at your position.
insane. Okay, you guys are crazy. Right now. I
How are
know.
we crazy? How are we? Dude, it's a starter. It's the quarterback 2 spot. We're not
You're
even talking
insane.
quarterback 1. We're beating out Amik Robertson,
This
who,
is insane.
with all due
Okay,
respect,
we need to move
is
on.
not that great.
We're not
He's
going to
a
agree on
good
this.
depth piece.
You're
Emmanuel Mosley off 2 torn ACLs. If Arnold
is
cannot
insane.
beat those 2 guys out for the other starting spot, I think that is
all
disappointing.
right. We got to move on. We're not going to agree. This is insane. You're taking it even further than you were at the beginning. I thought we were
not.
like going to meet in the middle. You're even taking it further now.
Justin,
This is crazy.
Justin is using his brain right now brilliantly because he knows a first
Glazing
round,
on Justin right now is insane.
No, because he knows a first
This is
round pick
insane.
should do exactly what a first round pick is expected to do, especially
All right.
given the context. This is
Unless
one of
you're
the
coming
best
off an
players
injury.
at his position.
Unless you're Penix,
right.
who's had injury history, or you're Latu, there's reasons to be
How about
questionable.
take a guy like Brian Thomas? If he doesn't come in and win one of the top jobs in that offense as a wide receiver, that's
I'm not
disappointing.
talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver room. Every
I'm just-
situation is
But
different.
it's similar to the
every
Lions.
situation is
Christian Kirk
different.
is like the
So are you
Carlton
saying-
Davis of wide
are you saying
receivers.
if Michael Penix doesn't earn the starting job, then
No.
he's a failure?
No.
Wait, what's the difference? Wait a minute, but Brian
It's
Thomas
given
should walk in-
context. It's given context.
That's what I just said 10 seconds ago. Is I said I'm not talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars receiver room. Context matters.
Context does matter.
No,
The
you're
Jags
changing
wide
your
receiver room
argument.
is not that great. No,
You're
I'm
changing
not.
your argument 5 minutes, 10
How
or
am I- what am I
2
changing?
minutes
What am I
ago you
changing?
said because of his expectations, because of how high a draft pick he was, he should come in and earn that job. And I'm like, no, situations
Chaos.
matter.
And what have
Things
I said?
change.
I said,
Chaos.
who's he going up against? He's going up against Amik Robertson and Emmanuel Mosley.
Those are guys that have
ACLs.
started in this league. Emmanuel Mosley was a good corner in this league. The injuries doesn't affect how he plays on the field. If he's healthy and he outperforms Arnold, what does his past injury history have anything to do with his performance on the field?
Yes, but it could be affected highly.
Sorry, Arnold.
You're expecting him to be the same player he was before
Sorry,
he tore his
Mosley, you
ACLs?
played better than Arnold, but because you've gotten hurt in the past, we're playing Arnold over you. It's like that's insane.
That's disappointing in Arnold. Then he should beat him out. He absolutely should beat him out.
Okay, okay.
You're giving him a pass. You're giving him a pass.
No.
You are. You're giving him a pass, and it's okay. You can just admit it. You're giving him a pass if he doesn't come out day one and be the guy. But that's what I'm expecting him to be because we invested capital in him that's high. We trade up for him. In the context of the quarterback room, he's not that great.
I've said the same thing the whole time. This whole time, your argument has changed the entire time.
It really hasn't. Like if you read it back,
Dude,
like you're gonna see.
You said what Laporta and Branch did is the same as coming in and being that guy. Meaning, so you're essentially saying what Laporta and Branch did is the same as beating Emmanuel Mosley. You're saying those two are the same things. What Branch and Laporta just did last year, you're either way down, like way falling short or selling short the season Laporta and Branch had, or you're way overplaying the quality of player Emmanuel Mosley is because you're thinking Emmanuel Mosley is a Pro Bowl player.
I'm not. I'm not saying that.
So what are you saying? You're saying that you're either saying that Arnold has to be a Pro Bowler.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's what you said a couple minutes ago. You said that the standard that Laporta and Branch just laid is now the new standard for
starting day one and pressing the coaching staff enough.
Okay.
Those are second-round picks. This is a first-round pick and one of the best defensive players in the draft. He should start.
Okay,
I don't know why that's so controversial.
Can we at least agree?
I don't know why that's so controversial.
Can we at least agree what Laporta did and Branch did is insane? Can we agree on that, or do you think that that's a normal thing that they did?
I think what Laporta did was insane. I think that's one-on-one stuff. I think what Branch did, I'm not going to say it's as crazy as what Laporta did.
Okay.
But Branch was very...
Fine. So we agreed
talented.
on what Laporta did was insane.
Yes. So, and I'm not saying that Arnold has to be
You did say
best,
that a couple minutes
the best
ago, or at least you implied it. So if you want to take it back, then that's fine.
I think you just misinterpreted. I'm saying what I expected of Arnold is to impress the coaching staff enough to start day one like Laporta, like Branch. And those were second-round picks.
Okay.
This
Laporta
is a first-round
didn't have anybody to beat out.
Sure.
And Branch was great enough to beat CD to move CD behind Tracy Walker.
Okay,
really,
but still, for rookie tight end to start day one and to gain the coaching staff's trust enough to be
I get what you're saying.
focal point is insane for rookie tight end.
I get
That's
what
one-on-one
you're saying.
stuff.
I get what you're saying. You're saying you expect him to come in. Okay, I'm at least trying to give you a little bit. Okay, I understand what you're saying. You're saying he has to come in day one. And you can cut all this out. That's fine.
No, we're keeping it all in, baby.
You're saying he's going to come in day one, or you just want him to come in day one, and you expect him to beat Robertson and Emmanuel Mosley. And if he doesn't, that's a disappointment to you.
That's exactly what I said at the beginning.
And what I'm saying is how the Detroit Lions operate. It's not as black and white as the way that you're explaining it. It's not that simple. It's they give all the benefit to these veterans. That's why they brought them in. Okay, they paid them this money. I even heard today they were talking about Arnold and Rakestraw's role, and they really were like pumping the brakes on it. They try to lower the expectations because they try to be like, we're not unless these guys come in and they're perennial Pro Bowlers from day one, they're not. These veterans are going to get the first team reps. They even said today that Arnold wasn't practicing today, but from all accounts, it sounded like Arnold wasn't going to practice with the ones day one, which means he has to earn it, and that's what all the Lions do is they make you earn it. And you're saying you think he should, and that's fine. And I'm saying I don't think it's a problem if he doesn't, because the Lions are going to push these guys really, really hard. Jack Campbell even said today, when being interviewed today, that they push these rookies really hard. And
that's what I love. That's what I love about the team.
And what I'm saying is,
I expect Arnold to ascend
And
to be the number 2.
And I'm
because
just saying
the competition from him is weak.
And I am not saying there's an issue with expecting that. I think our only hang up is to say that I think it's crazy to be concerned if he doesn't go out there and is lights out right away. We even just saw on Twitter today, people were clowning Caleb Williams because he had a rough day 1. Are you concerned because he had a rough day 1?
It's funny, but no.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Is like, okay,
but that's
Terrion Arnold's
Williams.
a great player.
That's a
We
face
can
of a
we can at least agree Terrion Arnold's a great player. And all I'm saying is I understand I feel like I understand well how the Lions operate, and I think that they are going to make it extremely. They're going to stack all the cards against Arnold to win the job. They're going to make it as easy as possible for Mosley or Robertson to win that job, and it's going to be an uphill battle for Arnold. And you're saying whatever, you expect him to do it, and I'm saying I don't think that it's a huge indictment on him if he doesn't, because the Lions.
I'll be disappointed.
Okay, we can leave it there. We can move on. I think I think it's crazy to. I think what I got.
But I expect him to.
What I got upset about was when I started using the Laporta and Branch thing. Is it whether or not you imply? It seemed as though you implied that their insane rookie seasons that I think is very fair to put on extremely high pedestal and be like, that's a crazy season that both of them had, but we can't expect all our rookies to do that. It's not fair to those guys to walk in day 1 and be like, you see what Branch just did, you see what Laporta just did, you guys got to do the same kind of thing. Or it's like, no, these guys are rookies. They're gonna have their lumps. And Arnold's a really great player, and I don't think if he doesn't start week 1, I don't think that it's a disappointment or it means that he's not going to be a great player. Okay,
I'm not expecting production-wise the same thing.
At least answer me this question.
I want Arnold to earn it like they did.
At least answer me this question, and then we can move on. If he doesn't start week 1, does your standard of him change from where it is right now? Like, is your expectations
I will be.
Him?
Yes,
No.
I will be disappointed.
Yes. Okay. So if he doesn't start day 1, how you think of him now will be lowered.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, fine. And I just don't feel that way, and that's fine. Okay, so where I was actually going with this conversation was
Back to Rakestraw.
I was trying to lay the groundwork for how I believe that the cornerback room was going to go in Detroit. So just so we can go back over it, I'm just going to go over the outside corners thing really quick, and then I'll move on to Rakestraw. So Davis is going to start on the outside, and then it's going to be Arnold, Mosley, Robertson is going to earn that outside job. And what I think the plan is for Rakestraw is there's been a lot of buzz this offseason about Brian Branch being ready to move to safety. They gave him some safety opportunities in the season last year, and they didn't think he did a really good job because they thought that his mind was in too many places. Because initially to start the season, they told him to be a nickel corner. You're going to play in the slot, be a nickel corner. That's what we're going to ask you to do. And he did such a great job that they're like, you know what? We're going to start asking you to do some things with safety. And they thought when they started to put too much on his plate that his level dropped off a little bit. Not to say he played bad, but they didn't think he played at that same level. So like, you know what? We'll take the safety off your plate, focus on being a nickel corner, just being the best nickel corner. He had a great season. Into this offseason, it sounds like they feel like Brian Branch is taking his game to another level, and he's ready to be the CD Deuce. They think you are ready to handle the safety and nickel. You can play either or. You're never going to leave the field. Depending on what package and what situation we're in, you're going to play either safety or you're going to play nickel. The person who's going to come off the field is going to be Iffy or Kirby. It's going to be one of those two, probably Iffy.
I like Iffy more than Kirby, man.
Yeah, depending on the situation, because Kirby's more of a ball hawk and Iffy's more of a,
lay you down.
I love that. I love that downhill.
He's more of a physical guy.
I love that downhill action.
So either way, Brian Branch is never going to come off the field again. I feel pretty confident in that.
I agree.
So what they want Rakestraw to do is they're going to develop him to be a nickel because they eventually want him to take over the reins for Brian Branch because I think that they want Brian Branch to probably play more safety than nickel, and they want Brian Branch to be a chess piece. They want him to be able to bounce back and forth, and depending on the situation, Rakestraw will take over for nickel when he goes back to safety. So I think that's the role for Rakestraw. I don't really think my guess is they'll probably start him off in nickel, and then they might try and develop him a little bit on the outside because they like their defensive backs to be as versatile as possible. But obviously every guy kind of has like their primary position. So I think Rakestraw is probably going to primarily be a slot corner who then eventually might have the flexibility to play on the outside if need be. But I think, so like when we were talking about Rakestraw, he's a little undersized, and that's not a problem when he's playing on the inside, when he's playing nickel. So I actually like the fit if you're playing him at nickel, because I wasn't a big fan of Rakestraw in round one for Detroit, and I especially wasn't a big fan because of what we talked about earlier, because he doesn't have a lot of interceptions. He has a lot of pass breakups, and he's more known as a dog and of a physical come down and hit you kind of guy.
But he's smaller.
But if you play him in the slot, I got no problem with the fact that, some of those limitations with his size and, some of those other things that I think he could be really good nickel. So that's what I think the role is for these two in Detroit, is eventually Terrion's going to be the CB1, at some point. That's at least going to be his expectation, is at some point to overtake Carlton Davis. And eventually they're going to want Rakestraw to at least be capable of holding it down when they move Brian Branch around. And when Brian Branch moves back to safety, probably Rakestraw will be the first guy off the bench to play nickel. And for now, while Rakestraw isn't ready for that full time, they have a guy like Amik Robertson who has flexibility to play inside and outside. And so that's why I think this cornerback room is a really good room that they've put together, is because they got some guys that are like kind of just strictly
movable
outside guys like Davis, Mosley, and Arnold. They got some guys that can play inside and outside, and they got like someone like Brian Branch who can play nickel and safety, and so they got a lot of versatile corners. And so that's what I think their plan is for Arnold and Rakestraw. And just like Evan said, I too expect very big things for Terrion Arnold. We got to see videos of him and kind of the way that he is and the person that he is. And man, like, he's perfect for what we're looking for. Like, he's confident in like not a cocky way.
Like, he's the guy that I want to be able to get his jersey of.
Oh yeah, like
that,
he's
like that. Not just because he's number 0, which is
cold.
He's got like this attitude.
I want it. I want him to start. I want him to be the guy.
He's got this attitude, but like it's not cocky. Like, at least when we had CD Deuce, you knew he was like a cocky guy. Like, and some people really liked that. Some people really hated it. He was a very polarizing kind of
It's
guy
like
to
a
root
swaggy
for.
confidence.
But Arnold is kind of like the kind of confidence that like he's not cocky or anything like that, but he's very, very confident in his abilities. And he has, like, I love the quote that he said when he was talking about his mom, where he just said, like, you know the kind of player that I am. Like, if I had to line up against my mom, I'd throw her in the dirt. And he's like, and I love my mom, but she knows that about me, and she knows that I would. She knows that that's how I would be. And it's like, that's the kind of guy that he is. That he's so competitive, that's how he is. And so, yeah, I'm with Evan. I'm very high on Arnold. I don't think that I think what's like, just like we were talking about before we got in a little bit of a back and forth, I think it's a good situation. I think it's a good situation for both of these guys, that they're not in a situation where, like last year, with how bad the Lions cornerback room is, like, let's say we drafted Devon Witherspoon last year, like, there would have been a lot on his plate because of how bad that cornerback room was. Whereas it was like, you either have to be good or you have to stay out there and just keep sucking. And with a corner, confidence is extremely important. And you could ruin a kid's confidence by putting him out there and just letting him get cooked, like Jeff Okudah, right? Where it was like, you didn't have a situation where you could kind of ease him in. You were kind of expecting him day one to be CB1, and you threw him out there. He got cooked a few times, and all it took was really like a season and a half of some struggles, and his confidence was kind of shattered, and that kind of ruins a player. And so I think it's a good situation, just like I said, how the Lions operate. Their team is so good now that now it is a really good situation for any rookie to come in, and they can sit. And they still have expectations. They're not just like, oh, sit down, sit behind Emmanuel Mosley, just take a seat, we'll call on you next year, just take this year to just kind of take the year off. It's like, no, they expect highly of them because they know next man up happens. They know injuries happen.
Yeah.
But they're in a situation now where it's like, hey, if they put Arnold out there and he's getting cooked you know what, let's sit him down for, a week or two. Let's let him build his confidence back up. Kind of like what they did with JMO. They were able to kind of give him as much as he was ready for, and if he wasn't really ready for it, they kind of gave him limited touches and kind of let him be him. And now
he is.
He's ready to take off.
I hope so, right?
Yeah,
One thing we can agree on, if we want to end on a good note with me and Evan, is JMO's that guy, and we both believe that JMO is ready for a humongous takeoff. So
there is
he does.
His name's not on the list as a rookie, but it does feel like this is JMO's first year, right? Like, he's just had so much turmoil and chaos the first 2 years. It's rare for a rookie,
and we've seen those
to kind of come out the other side of it all, right? Not a rookie, but just it's rare in the NFL to see a player go through so much and then be expected. He's the talk of the town, right? The next breakout wide receiver, JMO. The team is now praising him. Dan Campbell's praising him. He's even saying, I feel like I've matured a lot.
Yeah,
it's just rare for a player in the NFL, especially, to have two, let's just call it awful years, right? Whether it be through injury, the suspension, not fitting in, just own immaturities, whatever, what have you. Really rare to see a player, take off from that, become a star or become a main guy. But JMO has a chance to break that kind of, pattern and that mold. And I just think this is his first real year where he's going to be able to, develop that confidence, develop that chemistry with Goff, and really take off.
Just like we were talking about, at least what I was talking about, it's okay that a guy doesn't come in right away and doesn't light the world on fire, because it's a case-by-case situation. Some of these guys do take, and I understand, maybe for Arnold, you feel like he's the kind of guy that should come in and be great right away.
Right. Way different with JMO.
I do think we thought the same thing about JMO, but it didn't work out, and that's okay. But it does take some guys 2-3 years. I'd say if it takes more than 3 years, it starts to really become all right, probably this isn't working out. Like Levi Unzurike, we're starting to get to the point where it's you kind of run out of chances. But I'll read a quote that JMO said today, and I thought it was a good one. He said, because you kind of paraphrase it. He said, "I think I've matured a lot coming into the league. I've had some childish ways, wanted to do what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. Sometimes you got to listen and be on the right track, follow the right path, and you'll be down the right way." So it sounds like he's figuring it out. It kind of sounds like things are starting to click with him and his mindset.
So it's a great quote. What's so funny about that?
Yeah,
probably because it was not super literate.
No, just thinking, I'm walking down the path, so I'm walking the way that's the path, and I'm going straight down this way.
He's essentially just
Sometimes
saying,
you got to listen.
He's essentially just saying he was probably a little bit of a kid when he got to the league, and now it probably took year 3 for him to figure it out. Hey, probably looking at guys like Amon-Ra, seeing guys like Sam Laporta, and being hey, when you're actually just focused on being a good ball player and just listening and listening to the coaches and just being as coachable as possible, then you might have to cut some things out, about you as a person in order for you to be a better football player. And it kind of sounds like things are starting to click. So anyway, we went a little bit.
This is a huge year for him. This is his 5th year option year. Extension eligibility will kick in soon.
Right.
And I think he hasn't earned a dime past his rookie contract, so this is really his year to show.
Right, and he's fortunate that he was a 1st-round pick, because I think the Lions would probably be,
their focus may be more often than it is now.
Well, because he's a 1st-round pick, he has the 5th-year option, and so he has 5 years to kind of prove his worth instead of 4. Where the 5th-year option costs some money, so he has to produce this year in order for them to actually want to pick up his 5th-year option. But if he does enough, then they'll pick up his 5th-year option, and he'll have an extra year to kind of prove to the team that he's worthy of an extension. And so, there's some guys, if you're taken in the 2nd round and beyond, you only get a 4-year rookie deal. And there's some times where you're right on the verge of breaking out, and a team is forced to have to make a decision on you. Kind of like what the Giants had to do with Daniel Jones, where it's he had a breakout season, but he was so bad the previous years, where it's you were forced to make a decision on him, and it's crap, it'd be nice if we had one more year we could pick up and we could just watch him one more year.
What Daniel Jones are we paying for?
Right.
But with
None.
JMO, just one last thing. He's only 23, right? He's still super young.
Yeah.
And the team's lack of investment in the wide receiver room, to me, signals all the confidence in the world. There were so many Lions fans begging them, because you hear it on the radio, online, take a wide receiver with the first round pick, take a wide receiver with the second round pick. Like, all I heard was first round wide receiver, second round wide receiver, third round wide receiver. We got to get another guy in there, right?
Keep DPJ.
They do nothing. They do absolutely nothing. And to me, that's just about confidence in what you have. It's a lot of faith in JMO. It's a lot of faith in a guy like DPJ, Antoine Green, Khalif Raymond, right? Those other guys. But to me, that's all about JMO. And that is, I think, the best sign that we're going to get a fantastic year out of him.
And I think there was some confidence, but also it's trust in him too. It's being it's showing JMO. It's also kind of like speaking to how much trust they have in him with their actions, being like, hey, JMO, you see that we didn't draft someone. You see we didn't sign someone.
Exactly.
So this is us being like, we put a lot of faith in you, man. Come out, and I'm sure that probably uplifts him a little bit as he's like, wow, they aren't just saying they trust me and then they're going out there and they're re-signing Josh Reynolds, or they're going out there and they're signing Tyler Boyd.
Right.
They're saying they believe in me, and then they're actually going out and their offseason is reflecting that they actually think that I'm capable of being a fantastic receiver in this league. And so I know we're talking draft, and it kind of turned to a JMO show. But in the NFL, I love JMO.
In the NFL, it's a lot more don't tell me, show me, right? And I think with the draft, especially by taking 2 cornerbacks in the first round, the Lions are telling their wide receivers or telling their cornerbacks, we're going to have some competition, right? We're getting guys in here, and we're expecting day one, get off the ground running. It's going to be balls to the wall. But on the flip side, by not taking a wide receiver in the draft, by not investing in that room, you're showing JMO he's the guy outside of Amon-Ra.
Well, gotta be. Go ahead. Yeah, keep going.
So
you got something more to say.
moving through the Lions draft, I did want to touch on the other picks that we didn't touch on a ton yet, like Sione Vaki.
That's the only one.
Well, I just want to start with that one. I'm trying to move in order. Because we talked about Manu quite a bit.
We talked about Manu, Wingo.
So Vaki, so he's a running back / safety, but the Lions have made it incredibly clear he's a running back, which is quite interesting, because Vaki was primarily a safety in college. He really only played running back last year because of the situation of the team. The team started to get really thin at running back, and so they were kind of like, anyone want to try out running back? And Vaki stepped up, and apparently the Lions really thought that the phrasing that they used with Vaki was they thought he was a really natural runner. They thought that this guy's never played running back before. He runs very naturally like a running back. He didn't have to be taught a lot of these things. That's crazy. So they're going to use him at running back, but the biggest reason for this pick was, like you guys mentioned earlier, is special teams. The Detroit Lions are one of the few teams in the NFL that don't just claim to value special teams, they actually do value special teams. The Lions and Dan Campbell, they make it very clear, and they're very serious that other teams might just kind of throw a special teams coordinator out there and throw some backups out there and call it a day. We're not like that. Special teams is extremely important to us. They're just as important as offense. It's just as important as offense and defense to us. And the Lions have a great special teams coordinator in Dave Phipp. And so I say all that to say,
we just need a kicker.
This pick wasn't because they thought Vaki was some incredible running back prospect. It was they think he's an incredible special teams prospect, and that maybe there's some untapped potential there at running back that maybe they can get something out of. You look at someone like Jalen Reeves-Maybin, that they just paid the biggest special teams contract to. And so once again, just like we just talked about, they don't just say they value special teams, they actually showed it with their actions. They went out and paid Germ a massive contract for a special teamer, and he's a linebacker. But does Germ really play much linebacker? I mean,
He gets some snaps.
he gets some snaps, but
he's a depth
but
backer.
he got his contract because he's a great special teamer, not because he's a great linebacker.
No, that's
And at least you can
So-
use him if need be.
and so that's what they think of
Hopefully not.
Vaki. They think
Yeah.
of Vaki as like, sure, he can probably get some running back snaps for us, but we think he's an elite special teams player. And I agree. I think that he is. And when you talk to him, or like when you listen to him, dude, he is so Lions. Like, I know we keep saying that because like he is
though.
Lions.
He
Like,
is, though.
because that's why they picked him. It's like he talks about it and he's just like, do you want to know why the Lions loved him? It's because like, dude, like what it takes to like the one thing that they kept saying that they were so impressed by is that his pro day, he worked out as a safety for teams. Then he worked out as a running back, like with the running backs, and ran running back drills. Then he worked out with special teamers and ran special teams drills. He essentially went out there and worked with 3 special teams groups and didn't bat an eye. And like for example, they said that he would play a safety drill where you'd have to cover a running back, and then he'd go to the running back line, and then he'd run the same drill as the running back line.
It's crazy.
And it's like they were super impressed with the fact that they were super impressed. They were super impressed with the fact that like he's just a football player. Yeah, he just loves football.
He's a football guy.
And so anyway, so I just want to give Vaki some shout out, but like you're gonna see him on special teams, and
Aren't they
that's
changing
probably
the rules.
Yeah,
Yeah, they are.
the
Okay.
So
kickoff.
they like him for what they could do with
Yes,
the new.
the kickoff.
special teams
They're
rules.
changing the kickoff to what the USFL, XFL.
EFL now.
Yeah, what how they played it as, where the kicker kicks kind of all by themselves out by midfield, and then you have all the other the receiving team and the kicking team all line up within 5 yards of each other around like the 30-yard line of the receiving team. And then once the ball is received, then those, the lines kind of come at each other. And they think that, like what I've been hearing is they think that like, because currently like with the past kickoff rule, it was kind of like you'd want a lot of like corners like and wide receivers, guys that have some speed that can get down the field fast and like cover quickly, so that yards doesn't get eaten up by the guy kick returning. But with this rule, they think it's going to be more it would be more advantageous for like linebackers and blocking tight ends, like guys that are more close, better at
Close.
Yeah,
Trench
close
block,
close proximity kind of tackling and stuff like that. And so Sione Vaki fits that mold because he plays safety. Brock Wright, why probably they valued him so much. And for kick returner, they think that it used to be kind of guys that could kind of just hold the ball, like was really good at protecting the football, kind of like Craig Reynolds, running back, someone that you just expect to kind of hold on to the football. But with the new kickoff rules, they think that like a guy like J-Mo or Gibbs might be good. And I don't think the Lions are going to do it because he's way too valuable. But like someone who has lightning speed, who can see a hole and just burst through it. Because with all those guys being so close, it's like you hit one hole, you're gone. Like
I think that also keeps guys like DPJ and Khalif Raymond in a safer boat.
Yeah, for sure. Khalif Raymond, DPJ, they got
punt
some
returner,
experience.
kick return.
Khalif Raymond's a great punt returner.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like you can save guys' bodies.
Maurice Alexander's in camp, who was a really good returner in the CFL.
We got a lot of CFL guys.
I think Vaki, they said they could consider Vaki a kick returner. So anyway, I wanted to talk about Vaki a little bit, and then I will touch on Christian Mahogany, because most analysts, he was actually like, some people had him as a second round prospect, but I think most analysts had him as a third or fourth round prospect. The fact that they got him in the 6th round, everyone was kind of like, how did he fall that far? No one expected him to be there where he fell. So
good depth.
I actually heard some stuff that there's a chance that, because Kevin Zeitler is on a 1-year deal, that Christian Mahogany might be our starting right guard next year. Like he's that good. Like he is a good guard to get that late in the draft. Like he is a quality high-level player. I actually did hear something interesting a couple weeks ago about Christian Mahogany, and because people were wondering why he fell. They're like, injury concerns? No, doesn't seem like there was a lot of injury concerns. He's a talented player. Like, why'd he fall? The only thing that the only thing I heard that I found really interesting was they said that the rumor is, it's not for sure, that Christian Mahogany has one leg that is longer than the other. Yeah, that his legs aren't the same size. And so therefore, and it's not his third leg. Okay?
I wasn't thinking that. I think Justin might have been.
I was not. I was thinking of something else.
His legs weren't the same size, and they thought that and apparently it's not. Apparently it's not like close. Like apparently it's like it's not just like a half an inch off. It's like sounds like it's quite a
like John Rahm with his stump leg.
So maybe that was
how does that work?
But it was quite interesting. So. But anyway,
Seriously.
I just wanted to talk about Christian Mahogany because there is a lot of people that think that he is extremely capable of becoming a starting player. And how he fell to the 6th round, a lot of people were scratching their heads because I
know I am.
Heard some people were saying that that's one of the better late round picks in the draft. So
yeah,
overall, it's quite an interesting draft. I think not as many day one impact guys.
I like I said,
it's pretty much Arnold and a bunch of developmental guys.
I don't think Rakestraw is developmental, but I do think he's a guy
not going to play much.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to take some time.
I would say
just with the depth, with what we've.
But I think it's just because of the depth.
Yeah,
right. Like I think last year Rakestraw would be pushing for a starting spot, right at the
and I think that'd be concerning.
And I kind of agree.
Yeah.
Now
I think
you can let him kind of come along, but I don't think he's like a developmental piece in the same way that a Wingo or a Manu or a Vaki are.
I'm not saying like that. I'm just saying developmental is in like they're going to be sitting on the bench just getting better in practice.
Right.
It's going to be a lot of their roles this year.
I really only think Arnold
is really the only one
that has a chance to start. Right. I mean, but he's also the only one that I expect to start.
Right.
But
and funny
from a line perspective,
Sione would be the only other one too. I think only because of special teams.
Could start if there are some injuries at guard, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, no more Benito Jones, right?
Yeah. So
we got Dan Skipper though.
So like we did last year, do we want to give a letter grade to the Detroit Lions? Because I think last year we were quite harsh on the Detroit Lions.
You gave him a flat C. I think you gave him
I was questioning.
I did give him a B-.
I think I gave him a B. B plus.
I was questioning the Gibbs pick, and now here I am 1 year later with his jersey on.
Crazy.
Looking like a fool.
Crazy. I'm going to give them a B plus for this draft. I think I'm only giving them a B plus not because of the picks they made, because of the picks they gave up. I think you give up a ton of capital. You got to make it work, and the picks have to work out because and I know Brad Holmes was kind of saying like, well, we really only gave him a 3rd round pick, and that's true, but at the same time, if we're looking at it just in a vacuum, you gave up a lot of capital to get these guys.
Well, they gave up. Well, he was essentially saying the only round we don't have a pick in is the 3rd round, but I think they gave up maybe a pick or two next year. Like I think they might have given up one of their 6th. I think they had a couple 6ths.
He can always strategize.
So they did give up more picks than they actually got back. So yeah. But the only pick they don't have right now next year is a 3rd.
But it's not like stressful where we're like, I need a pick next year badly.
Right. And you can't. And the Lions are getting to the point now where you're playing the comp pick game where you might lose a player in free agency and then you're going to get a comp pick for it, or you're going to lose a coach and you might get if Aaron Glenn, he's a minority coach, if he gets hired as a head coach, you'll get a 3rd round pick for that. So
but that is true. It is crazy. It makes total sense. But at the same time, 3rd round pick, those are valuable picks in it. But it makes total sense. I'm just saying, getting a 3rd round pick, they
could be getting a couple picks next year.
Considering a lot of people don't even like Aaron Glenn, they're more than happy to give him up for a 3rd round pick.
I love Aaron Glenn.
I think he's pretty good.
He's
very
awesome.
mixed.
He's great. because now we're going to see with the defense they can actually do some work. But I'm giving him a B+, not because of the players they drafted, but really just because of the values and the trades that they made. I think
there is some risk.
There is some risk. I love the conviction, but there is some risk. You're taking on some projects here, and to me, this is kind of the nature of being a good team in the NFL, right? Your drafts just aren't going to be as sexy. They aren't going to be as delicious on a year-to-year basis when you're making the playoffs, when you're picking later in the draft.
Interesting word to use.
No.
But to get Arnold, I think is an A+, and I like Rakestraw, but I think a B+, A- is probably a fair spot for this draft. But I love the Arnold pick, and from there on out, we'll see what happens. Arnold and Manu, probably my two favorite picks. But a lot to play out, a lot of developmental pieces here. I'm really excited to see Arnold. I think he's going to be a star, and I expect him to be a star.
Day one.
Day one. So I'll go A-. I'll go A- with the draft.
Well, that was what I was going to say, so now you stepped on my toes. I was going to say A-. I think, okay, I'm not going to take back what I said, because I think I said pre-draft, I even think I tweeted it, that I wasn't the biggest Ennis Rakestraw fan, but I was more so talking about round one. But I'm still not going to act like I'm like the biggest. I wasn't the most massive Ennis Rakestraw fan. Of course, now that we drafted him, I'm buying into it some more because now he's on my team. But I'm not going to act like Ennis Rakestraw was like the great. Like I was like absolutely in love with the pick at the moment. I think that it's a pretty solid pick, and like I said, I think he'll make a pretty good slot corner in the long run. Terrion Arnold, I think that was a home run.
Yeah.
I predicted it. So bonus points there.
We all kind of said though, like if there's one guy they would trade up for, like
yeah,
a few guys, like it was going to be Arnold.
You agreed with my genius.
It was going to be a guy like Arnold, a guy like Jared.
I was backpedaling.
I think I texted in our chat like there's two guys they trade up for, Verse and Arnold. I think those were the two guys I named.
It would have been interesting if it would have went first.
I know. It would have been interesting.
I do
I
agree.
love Arnold.
I do agree with you though. There is some risk to this draft. Manu is far from a guarantee. If he hits, this draft probably becomes an A+. If he becomes a bookend tackle, because I think Manu's potential, I don't really think there's a lot of situations where he's just an average tackle. I think he's either out of the league in 3 years or he's
getting ready for a contract extension.
He's a franchise left tackle. And if you get a franchise left tackle, which are so hard to come by in the fourth round, this automatically becomes an A+ draft.
For some Owen Bros.
But there is risk
You don't think
there.
they move Sewell to left though? And put Manu at right.
Penny's too good at right.
I don't think they know yet. I think Penne is so good at both. Like that's the thing with Penne is like that's why he's so special, is because not any elite tackle can just switch from one side to the other and is elite on both sides. Like he's probably a top 3 tackle in the NFL.
I think he's top 1
at
like,
either side.
Yeah, it's only him and Trent Williams you can consider.
And so I think because of how elite Sewell is, you kind of just pick whatever side Manu is best at. You keep him there, and then you just put Sewell on the other side. And
that's fair.
I think Manu played left tackle in college, so I'm guessing he probably has more familiarity on the left side, so that's kind of why I said that. But there is some risk there. Vaki, even though I respect the special teams, taking special teamers in the 4th round, could be risky. If he's not a great special teamer, then he's probably not going to be a great running back. He's probably not going to be a great safety, and it doesn't sound like he's going to play there. So, so anyway, if Manu becomes a starter, if Mahogany becomes a starter, if Rakestraw becomes a starter, then this becomes a great draft. So I'm going to give it an A- for now because they did give up some capital, but I do love the Arnold pick a lot, and I do understand a lot of the other picks as well. And yeah. What about you, Justin?
No Wingo love. I get it. You run that depth on everybody but Wingo.
Sorry, Justin.
Well, Kool-Aid.
I'm going to give it a flat B.
And trying to be the negative Nancy, are we?
I think it's a fair score.
It's not like I'm going C. I think it's just like obviously the potential is there, but it's a little more kind of directly top heavy. right? With Arnold being there, and then Rakestraw with potential, but he's still not locked in as, we're not viewing him as a starter. I know there's a lot of work to be done on most of these guys, but, it's pretty much like you're kind of looking at depth in Arnold. You're looking at like a star plus extras, but obviously the extras all can turn into stars, or at least, quality players, exactly.
They don't
so
need
that's
to be superstars.
That's
but
why
if they can produce, they can provide.
Yeah, so that's why you're looking at I could give it I could have if you're at a C, you're like these guys are all pretty solid, but I think they all have the potential to be better, so that's why you go into the B range, and I think with a star like Arnold coming in, that's when I went to the flat B. Obviously, I could throw a B plus in there, but I think it's just a flat B going off of everything I'm looking at.
Yeah, no, I'm right there hovering on that B plus A minus line. So I get the B because there is a lot of risk in taking on so much developmental pieces. If they don't pan out, and the only guy that provides you minutes, actual minutes, is Arnold.
Right.
It's not a good draft.
Right, and it's one thing to take one project. It's another thing to take 3 or 4 in the same draft.
But we're lucky we're at the place where we can do that.
We can all agree that if there's that we trust Brad Holmes, and if he really feels good about these guys, he's probably going to hit on 1 or 2 of them.
You'd hope so.
So
right?
and if he does, then
I really hope it's Wingo.
I hope so too. You know how I am about this D line. I've been begging for somebody opposite Aiden, and we still haven't gotten it. I've just kind of sucked it up and said, maybe they're just never going to do it, because that's fine.
Yeah, and he's got the gas.
I want that though.
Right, he's got the gas, and if you can actually somehow transition him to D end and it works out, him and Hutch,
sky's the limit.
Yeah, you're rolling.
So as we wrap up here, is there any specific drafts we want to shout out? that we like the best, or ones that we weren't the biggest fans of? I'll just start with the 3rd round pick for the Las Vegas Raiders, DJ Glaze. Oh man, I couldn't even hold that in.
Just whatever.
Talking
DJ
about
Glaze.
Oh,
he's
Master Glaze over there.
His play
Your
style
Dunkin'
is very
Donuts. Your
similar.
Donuts
It's the
owners?
J-Mo.
It's very similar to how Evan was when we were arguing with Justin. He was trying to get Justin in. He was glazing on him. He was DJ glazing.
No, Justin was just hearing 2 sides, and as the jury member, he said,
very handsome.
I like this guy in the left.
This very handsome man in Justin was just making very articulate points, and he was just understanding.
Brilliant points by Justin. Using your brain brilliantly.
A duo that I like and I'm really excited to see is Jalen McMillan and Bucky Irving in the Bucks.
Sleepy draft of the Bucks. I thought they had a good draft, man.
I agree. I think so too. You start with Graham Barton, big talk of the draft. Him and Powers for the guard position. Tykees, or I don't know how you say his name. He's actually a sleeper safety out of Georgia that not people were talking much about. And I think you kind of just the last 2 were just kind of extra picks, but Jalen McMillan is an incredible wide receiver, and I think he's a great piece if they end up moving off, because they're locked into Mike Evans long term. And if you move off of Godwin, I think he can be a great 2, maybe a year after, or he's an incredible 3. And I think even though Rashad White's still there, don't sleep on Bucky being of value. Or if you don't want to pay, the running back game can be an issue, right? And Bucky can be a great asset. You just move off of White down the line.
I'll shout out the Commanders draft.
I knew you were going to say something.
Ben Sinnott is one of my favorite players in the draft.
K-State, baby.
K-State. I've seen enough of Ben Sinnott to know, because this guy loves K-State. So, we're watching K-State games. But Mikey Sanders still one of my favorite players in the draft, too, even though he went to Michigan. And I'm a Sparty Chud. I just love the way Sanders still plays.
Don't forget Christian McCaffrey's brother.
Yeah, they got Luke McCaffrey. But they also, Jane Daniels, I think, could be a stud. And then John Newton, of course. And then I'll shout out my Patriots as well. Drake May, I think, will be great. He was the guy I wanted. Tyler can't say otherwise. I've always been the guy on May. And I love Javon Baker.
Now when you picked Miami.
I love Javon Baker.
And with Minnesota.
He was absolutely abolishing the Patriots during the offseason. All of a sudden, he's all fine and dandy.
I'm not happy with the Patriots offseason still. Because I'm looking at Calvin Ridley in Tennessee. He's looking dangerous at OTAs. Looking dangerous.
He's gonna have more time with Boyd and Hopkins on the outside.
What did he get, $30 million a season, or 20-something?
He got way more than he should have.
When Will Levis is having a great year, because he's got Ridley, he's got Hopkins, he's got Boyd, he's got Tajay.
Who's their
He's
tight
got
end?
and
Pollard.
they can't get any
He's
better.
got Chigoziem Okonkwo.
And they can't
He's got
get any better.
studs.
And that's as good as they're going to get
And
because
the
they're
Jarius
they're
needs the whole
maxed out on-
defense.
I just
on
wanted one
salary.
guy that could be a reliable source for Drake May.
KJ Osborne.
A reliable water boy.
He's a wide receiver 3 in Minnesota. I think he could
He
be.
got paid $4 million on a 1-year deal. That is
I think he
that
could
is
be a wide
cuttable
receiver
money.
2 in the NFL.
I'm
I think
intrigued by it. He's on my bench, so I'm
I think
ready.
he's a wide receiver. He's wide receiver 3 in Minnesota. I think he's capable.
I'd
of
love
being
to see all the
wide receiver
rookies start. I'd love to see Polk, Baker, and
Of course you
just
would.
Polk and Baker.
It's
and
going to
May,
be
all
interesting to
from day
see
one.
how Ramondre rolls with this young regime, you know?
Just
We got
roll
Antonio
Joe,
Gibson.
Just roll Joe Milton
Everyone
out
should
there.
Big
about
off-season
it.
acquisition.
Just roll
I'm more excited with
Gibby.
Hunter Henry.
Joe Milton out there as wide receiver 1.
He could be.
He could be a tight end.
I wanted to shout out
Oh, yeah, I'm good. I love those drafts.
the Philly draft. I mean,
Gross.
Philly continues
'Cause it's
to
Philly.
to do great things, and
The legacy pick, Trotter.
yeah, Jeremiah Trotter, Clemson. I was gonna say Washington.
I'd like to shout out slightly also in Washington, G. Baptiste out of Notre Dame.
Yeah,
Late round edge pick. Don't sleep on him. He's leaving early.
Yeah, no, I don't got any more drafts.
Hey,
really
shout
I
out,
wanted to
shout out the
talk
boy
about.
Michael Pratt, who's probably going to be the next backup in Green Bay. Because I don't think anybody else is better than him that's over there.
Pittsburgh had a slam dunk draft. Troy Fatanu in round 1 at pick 20 was a great pick. Zach Frazier in round 2, which many people thought was a fringe round 1 talent. Interior offensive lineman. Round 2, Roman Wilson in round 3. That's a great value.
I don't love Roman.
Well, that's your opinion.
I think he can be. I think it'll be interesting to
Yeah, I
see what
just
he
talked
does.
about Mikey Sanders still. I give some love to a Michigan guy.
Roman
I don't have to
Wilson's
love Roman Wilson.
Roman Wilson's a great compliment to
You see, when they acquire Cortland Sutton or Debo or one of these other stud wide receivers that they're talking about,
he's a great
Ayuk.
route runner. He's a great route runner. He's a good DJ or a good Deontay Johnson replacement. And then they got Peyton Wilson in the 3rd round, which was one of the better one of the better linebackers in the draft. And Mike Tomlin loves his cover linebackers, and Peyton Wilson's a good one. So yeah. I think that was a good draft. Shout out to Cleveland for getting Zach Zinter. Round 3.
My only other shout out would be shout out Tennessee for that Devondre Sweat pick. I know he's had his issues,
He has his issues for
but
sure.
I think that's a great pick if they can get him together.
If he can get it together, that's a great pick for sure. But DJ Glaze, that's the pick of the draft right there.
that's all name team.
You got to get a Glaze jersey.
I do.
Yeah, he can just put it on the back of that one.
I could. J-Mo Glazer. Just replace Stafford with
Jay
J-Mo.
Glaze.
Evan and
J-Mo
I are both
Glazer.
a part of the J-Mo Glazing Club, so we.
Donuts are us. We got it. Well,
That's it. That's
Success.
the draft. That's another year, another draft.
I thought it was only going to be about an hour-ish just after, but here we are, probably a dose. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the recap.
Yes.
Like we said before, we are now football only. So another probably hiatus rolling up here.
Maybe we could get into some fantasy talk.
Yeah, we got fantasy season coming up soon, so we'll get into that. But yeah, I mean, NFL's going to take a pause, just like we are. But football's king. And
It is, and there's nothing better than football season.
Yeah, but maybe if there's something big that happens, like a huge trade, maybe we hop on for
like
for
the
a segment
Pistons
or
falling
something.
to pick 5.
Nah.
We don't need to worry about that. That's just another
We're
year
done
of
with that team.
devastation.
We're done with that team. That team is
Dead.
yeah,
Dead in the water.
sure.
We're done with them until 2030.
Whenever Tom Gore sells the team, we'll take it seriously.
Yeah, seriously.
Honestly, sell it to Sheila.
Sell to anyone.
Facts.
Illich has 2. Let Sheila have 2.
I'm done.
Get rid of the Illiches too. Chris is a bum as well. So.
Yeah,
Maybe it's just him because his dad was good.
it's just Sheila.
Yeah.
We only have Sheila now.
Sheila carries. Shout out Sheila.
Shout out Sheila.
All right. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the beef.
Got entertainment right there. Good content.
It is true. Leave some comments. Leave some likes. let us know what your opinions of the draft were.
What's your opinion on Terrion Arnold? Week 1 status.
Y'all Detroit fans,
That's a big
he's
one.
a
That's a big
starter. All right.
Pose that question.
Team-
Will you be disappointed if Terrion does not start day one?
Hashtag Team Evan or hashtag Team Tyler.
There you go. If you believe Terrion Arnold will be a week 1 starter.
Well, it's more so the question. We don't want to get into it, but it's more so the question of is there expectation if he isn't a week 1 starter? Is that a failure?
That's a no.
That's quite a question. It was
That's a
simple.
mischaracterization.
Will hashtag Team Evan if Terrion Arnold should be a week 1 starter?
Will you be disappointed
No,
if Terrion
that-
Arnold
Is that what
does
it
not
is?
start
I
day
think
one?
he could be a week
Will
1
you be
starter
disappointed
too.
if Terrion Arnold
Yeah.
does not start day one?
Sure.
Hashtag
That's a
Team
question.
Evan.
No.
Or
Is
hashtag
it
Team
a disappointment?
Just yes or no?
Is it a disappointment on Terrion Arnold if he's not a week 1 starter?
Yeah.
Yes or no? Leave your comments below. I'm done. No more
I'm done too.
tangents.
I'm done too.
See ya when we see ya. Bye.